A night in with MauLer and the drinker, getting trashed with the web stream dinkers. A cheap night cause I'm feeling kinda thrifty, got a 10-pack of beers and a bottle of whiskey. Hop up the cork, have a glass of wine, I'll feel safe, I'll be fine. Trouble walking in a straight line, but pour me a Pinot Noir. It's open bar with our hosts, MauLer and the critical drinker.
What's up, everybody? How
Hello.
y'all doing?
Welcome.
How are you, MauLer? Are you ready for this?
No, you already know. Just before we started, I was like, I'm not happy today. I've watched a whole bunch of bad things. At least it's Mobland, Sunday? That can cheer me up.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the next block of Clarkson's Farm to release because I hadn't realized you only got like the first 4 episodes, I think, and then the other 4 are coming out like on the 30th. So that's like tomorrow.
Yeah, I haven't started up yet, but I will be.
It's really good. Like season 4 is great. Anyone out there, if you've not watched Clarkson's Farm, just give it a watch. It's like ideal, easy viewing. It's great. You'll love it.
Yeah.
Guarantee it. But well, anyway, how are you? We're here and we're ready to start open bar 144. And if that being the case, would you like a little rundown of some stuff, some facts from 1944? Just to
I really would. What have you got?
Right. Well, do you want me to start you with famous people that were born in this year? Because there's some good ones here, actually.
Some good ones. We got lucky this year.
It was, yeah. This is a bumper year, actually. We got George Lucas. He was born in this year.
Well.
Yeah. Danny DeVito, equally good, I would say. Michael Douglas, also born. The best of all, of course, Gary Busey, the legend that is. Possibly the most insane man in Hollywood. And that's up against some pretty stiff competition. Yeah. Joe Frazier as well was born in 1944. Harold Ramis, obviously of Ghostbusters fame, and tragically passed away too soon, taken from us too soon. And Jonathan Rhys Davies, which I think you'd appreciate.
Yeah.
Good guy.
I like you have no problem you saying Reese. Do you know any Americans say Rise, including one of our guests today, I'm pretty sure.
That makes me kind of angry.
Yeah, you have to put up with it all the time. You can correct them as much as you want, but it won't work.
Yeah.
Reese.
Want to know some stuff that was invented in 1944?
All right, yeah, go for it.
Frozen prepackaged dinners apparently were first invented then.
I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
Well, for the human race, it probably wasn't. But yeah, invented by William Maxon. He invented prepackaged frozen dinners, which later became known as TV dinners for the U.S. Navy's transatlantic flights.
So his name wasn't William Frozen Food.
Sadly not. No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Well.
They invented kidney dialysis machines, which kept a lot of people alive, which is nice and all. Yeah. They also penicillin was mass produced for the first time then. So basically, before the Normandy invasion, they kind of figured that a lot of people would be coming back with injuries that would need treatment, so they didn't get infected. So 2.5 million doses of penicillin were prepared for that. It was considered a miracle drug for its day. So neato.
Do you think someone's going to compile every one of these intros eventually, just make a history of the world video?
According to the drinker.
Yeah.
It's going to be this hodgepodge of like barely understood facts and stuff.
People are like, man, what a drunken historian. It's like, yeah, fuck
yeah, this is like, yeah. I'm going to do that, the drunken historian. Also, the world's, well, how can I put this? A V-2 rocket fired by Germany became the first ever man-made object to enter space on its ballistic trajectory. It passed that 100-kilometer mark on its way over to blowing up probably a bunch of innocent civilians in England.
Well, yeah, there you go.
But yeah, so 1944 was the first time that a man-made object entered space. It was also the first flight of the, I'm gonna butcher this name, the Heinkel HE-162 Volksjäger. So it was a mass-produced German jet. It was the second jet that the German Air Force produced, and it was apparently mostly made out of wood because they were getting a bit short on like building materials by that point in the war, and they were pretty much just throwing them together out of whatever they had. So needless to say, it wasn't exactly a resounding success.
Apparently something notable about 44 was the largest explosion in UK history. Did you know about this? A massive explosion at the underground storage depot in Staffordshire, England, resulted in a crater that was 1,200 meters across and
what?
I don't know. I've
did not
never heard
know
of this. It's the RAF fold explosion.
Wow.
I know,
I
right?
mean,
Look at us. Look at what we're achieving in 1945.
yeah, blowing stuff up.
Maybe that was our attempt at exploding something into the stratosphere so that we could get some records. I don't know.
I mean, I got a feeling that 1945 is going to yield some bigger explosions when we do our recap next time. But,
I don't think anything notable happened then. I think that was a quiet year, you know.
Yeah. Well, it was afterwards, I would say, but you know,
So.
yeah. Anyway, that's our pointless facts for this week. Let's get to the present day, shall we, and bring some people in so we can talk about this stuff.
All
What do
right,
you think?
we should do it.
All right. Welcome to the bar, Gary, Mr. H, and Darkhour. Welcome, my friends. Good to have you all back.
What's up?
Hello.
Nice to be
Always
here.
good. Mark Millar is going to be joining us shortly, but he's been on a drunken trip to London, so he's not quite home yet, but he's rushing back right now as we speak, so we'll wait for him. But in the meantime, good to have you guys all here.
Hail, and it's Rise OnlyFans. Okay, that's his name. Rise. I felt personally attacked with that, by the way.
I feel personally attacked. We're all personally attacked.
Good.
Who's most offended here, though?
Hmm.
Can we claim that is cultural appropriation, that you are
You have to-
disrespecting one of our
Not for
national
Welsh.
treasures?
Not for Welsh.
What?
Welsh
Let's get
people don't have a
That's
culture.
even more
You
oppressive.
don't have a culture.
You can't be oppressed. It's more oppressive. We're gonna have the oppression meter, and I'm gonna wipe out all of you on it because the Welsh are almost fucking not even remembered. So horrible.
We'll get there one day. One day you'll make your mark upon
I feel like the
world's-
actors are our best way of being recognized that we exist. Like fucking Reese Ifans and Anthony Hopkins. Got to get more of
Ooh.
them. Got to produce more. Oh, you like him, and I know you do. You know,
Is
the
this
big
like some
problem
kind of
with-
war between you two? Like, Reese Fans is a good actor, okay? You like him. Admit it.
Well, he's like the best one in House of the Dragon. I'll give you. There's a few bits of competition, but fucking Otto should have had more scenes. Damn it.
Yep.
Yes. Is he the best actor or just the best character? And so you like him because of
Well,
that?
that's what I was saying. There is competition. Matt Smith can compete with him for best actor. Who else do you write? Who would you pick? I guess Paddy Considine.
Well,
but
if it
he's
was
not in season two.
Paddy Considine for season 1, obviously.
Mm,
Man just absolutely crushed it.
yeah,
trying to think who else.
those would be the main ones, I reckon.
Yeah.
And yeah, Reese was missed in the last half of the last season for sure.
Disappeared after episode 2, right?
Yep.
Like, bro, we need you.
I mean, he disappears in the story too.
yeah,
so-
yeah. But they can play.
They are still
They can
doing a
play with
season
that.
3, aren't they? Like that is happening.
Yeah, but it
Yeah.
might be delayed
Mm.
because they delayed Night of the Seven Kingdoms to next year. So that tells me they're probably going to delay House of the Dragon.
Oh no. I'm not
Yeah.
used to delays when it comes to like
Yeah, that never happens.
Game of Thrones properties.
Never happens. Well, I mean, this year, like they have the biggest battle you'll ever see in any Game of Thrones show. So lots of
Let's hope
effects,
it's good.
lots of dragons, all that stuff. Yeah, I hope it's good too.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
We
George
shall
has got
see.
his cocktail bar that he has to open, so he's a busy man these
Oh,
days.
did you see the post he did? I mean, Gary, you must have, right?
Of what?
The more recent post he did, George.
Yes, I did.
That was fucking crazy. I was like,
What's
wow.
his latest update?
Oh, book ain't coming out, folks. It ain't happening. So he's like,
Ever.
the post. I mean, just to sum it up, is pretty much, hey, I really like Wins a Winner. I do love it. I'm not ignoring it, but I have other stuff to do, and I love that stuff too. But I still love Wins a
So-
Winner. But nothing about I'm gonna get done.
Yeah, like to
Right.
be clear, the broad point of it is I care about all the properties I've created. You
Yeah.
only care about A Song of Ice and Fire, which would mean something if it hadn't been 10 billion years since he had done anything with it.
Yep.
Like it feels a bit odd. He's not addressing that. He's deliberately like, oh, I did this, and I care about this, and I care about this. It's like, bro.
The thing is
Been
as
a
well, like he
while.
can care about as many things as he wants, but like A Song of Ice and Fire is the thing that made him famous. It's the thing that actually like launched his career.
It's his biggest story told, and he hasn't given it an ending. That's what did he
Yeah.
expect? Like,
People
The
aren't going
ultimate
to George R. R.
please.
Martin. People aren't going to watch the 12 Trials of Hercules redone in the South or whatever the fuck it is, because George R. R. Martin's name is on it. They're not. Nobody cares. He is just looking for shit. It's the Conan O'Brien clip from 10 years ago now, where he's like playing bongos and stuff and doing it, just getting distracted. That's what it is. jumping in his pool naked, bouncing on a bouncy ball, rolling down a grassy knoll. You know, that's what he's doing. Just anything to distract him.
The man is just running out the clock at this point. I mean, what age is he now? He looks about 200 years old.
Oh, what is his? I'll find out.
All right.
70s minimum.
I'm going to say 75. Oh,
76.
Yeah.
He looks older than that. It's not been kind to him.
Do you think is he in like a boogie situation where it's like I'm just kind of hoping to die? Like it'll make things easier.
He mentions that. He says like people hope that I could just pass it off to someone else, so that I could just, because he said like what people will say is even if I finish the next one, that I won't finish the one after, or if I finish both of them, it'll be bad. It's like maybe you shouldn't just rant, bitterly on this thing if you've got nothing good to say. It's not going to help you out. I'm saying is like he probably should have anticipated that people were not going to react well to a post like that.
Yeah.
No, they're not. And all he ultimately has to do is just be honest with everybody and just go, I can't do it. And ask for help. Swallow your pride and ask for help. Or just tell people you're not going to finish. Do whatever. Be honest about it.
I mean, I do wonder what the reaction would be if he was just come out publicly and say, look, I don't know how to finish this series. I'm going to pass it off to like an assistant or a ghostwriter or something, and they're going to finish it on my behalf.
Yeah, passion can die over the course of even a year, let alone fucking decades. Like, I get it. You could totally admit that, and people wouldn't be too surprised. Just that they're wondering what's happening to the story. That's all.
Well, I think the biggest problem was that the show ending was probably based on all of his notes, and I wouldn't be shocked if he was a decent amount into a book that went that direction. It got a really terrible reaction, so then he was like, "Shit, I have to undo all my writing." So I can understand that being, it's still it's still annoying, but I can understand someone being like, "Well, that was everything I wanted to do, and no one liked it. So what am I going to do now?"
Yeah.
Imagine
That's
the truth was
the
like
theory for a lot of people.
Imagine he'd finished both of them, but he didn't want to release them until there's enough distance between the show ending and this releasing. He's just like
there's never going to be enough distance.
No.
Yeah, I think a lot of the noise and minutia got to him, but like he can end it that way, but like there's still so many characters alive, and it's about like the journey to that ending. All they got was like bullet points. Like Bran is on the throne. That's how it's gonna end. Daenerys is gonna die at the hands of Jon. That's gonna happen. Hold the door, we know. There's a lot of plot points that are happening in the book, but there's so many other characters that like it can happen a different way. And plus you have two huge books to build up Daenerys, flipping, doing her heel turn.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Mark. Good to have you on board, man. How's it going, man?
Sorry, I'm late. I ran all the way from the train station.
It's all right. I can tell.
Seeing an adult man run through the street it's disturbing,
I've watched that Impossible plenty of times. What do you mean?
It's a rare thing in Glasgow as well. There's usually police involved when a guy's running.
Yeah.
It's a thief, isn't it? So tell me everything I've missed, anything exciting. What are we on?
Well, we were just starting by bantering a bit about George R. R. Martin, telling the world that he's never going to finish A Song of Ice and Fire, basically. So,
is he confirmed this?
Well, no, not so much. It's more a case of, hey, I know you guys are really excited for Winds of Winter, but I'm excited for lots of other things, and you should be excited for those things too. Just don't hassle me about that stuff, and never expect the book to be finished, okay?
He's in such a win-win situation because everybody was angry with the ending. Whatever he does, people are going to say that was better. It's such a nice position to be in, isn't it?
I mean, in some ways, yes, but then it's like he's built the books up so much that, well, one, I think he's made the narrative so convoluted that like there's no way to tie up all those narrative threads. And two, people expect him to now be way better than the TV show. Like it's not enough to just be like, oh, okay, it was marginally less terrible. And I just don't think he knows how to finish it. I think he's stuck, and he probably doesn't have the time or the energy to like finish an enormous book like that.
Has he got kids?
Nope.
See, it's always good for some grifter son, to write your book 20 years after you're dead, isn't it? That's
I'll tell you what, though, because now that you're here, right, one of the big things that we're kind of interested in this week is the rumors that there's been pretty major reshoots to Superman, James Gunn's Superman, in light of poor test screenings.
Really?
And not only that, they've apparently cut 25 minutes from the movie. So this is the rumors that is going around. It says here, what's it? Yeah, sources close to the production say the film received a mixed reception at earlier test screenings, triggering a cascade of changes. Gunn's original cut apparently leaned heavier on humor, something the execs weren't entirely sold on. In response, several comedic beats were cut from the movie, trimming down both the tone and the runtime. The film's editors were also removed, apparently, leading to a reworking with the film's structure. It also says, yeah, it's been a course correction. Altogether, about 25 minutes of footage have been trimmed from earlier versions, giving the film a leaner feel. The adjustments hint that a studio is anxious to get it right, especially with this being the first major installment of the rebooted DC universe.
Superman 2, I think, runs at 129 minutes. Superman 1, 127. Thereabouts, so like 2 hours 7, 2 hours 9. And I heard this is at 2:2 just now. And that was music to my ears. Like, I'm so fed up with 3 hour family movies. It's like, I mean, The Godfather's 2 hours and 30 minutes or something like that. Like, we don't need superhero films to be 3 hours long. I genuinely now go for a walk during a 3 hour superhero movie. I just go and I look at the posters and things and then come back.
Well, dude, watching an hour and a half movie can be shocking these days. You're like, oh, it's over. All right, yeah.
Yeah. There's some... Well, because like a movie is presuming upon your time, right? With every minute that passes, it's wasting your time potentially. And so, yeah, like the writers and the filmmakers need to think like, is this necessary? And is this going to work for us? Because even from a financial point of view, it benefits them to have shorter films. They can get more screenings in per day. Like that's all good stuff. And it should be as long as it needs to be, but no longer. And I think that's the problem that they run into now, bloat.
I think you should need to go and see like the UN or something like that if you're making a film, an action movie that's more than 2 hours, 10 minutes. I think you need to actually go and speak to prime ministers and presidents and get permission.
Yeah.
Beyond 2 hours, 10 minutes. That's perfect. Yeah.
Well, what's more interesting, though, about this is not just the cut in runtime. Like, taking 25 minutes of footage out of the film is quite a cut. But also... the fact that it leans so heavily into humor, which I think maybe people were worried about with James Gunn being on board, because we want, and I'm just I'm kind of speaking for everyone here. I think with the Superman movie, you want sincerity, you want earnestness. You don't necessarily want like ironic, self-aware humor, and that's
see, to be fair though, because James Gunn is a really good filmmaker, right? I mean, he's a brilliant filmmaker. So, and I know that. It's like, do you remember when Peter Capaldi was cast as Doctor Who, and everybody was kind of like, "Oh my God, he's going to be swearing as Doctor Who," and they were like, "No, that's when he was playing Malcolm Tucker. It's okay, And he's a very versatile actor, and I think James Gunn is a brilliant filmmaker. So I think he knows the tone. The humor will be different than Superman, because remember, Donner's Superman's really funny. It's got lots of really funny little moments, isn't it? So I have a feeling the humor in Superman is going to be more like that than Guardians. That's my guess, because he's so good at what he does.
I would hope so. Yeah, it's just going to be. I don't know. The atmosphere around the movie is kind of a weird one, and I honestly can't tell what people are hoping for with this film. Like, it genuinely feels like some people want it to fail. And I don't know if it's just because they don't necessarily love James Gunn. I don't know if it's because there's still Snyder fans out there who are kind of angry about like the change of direction with DC, or I don't know if it's just, some people kind of just want the superhero genre to stop now. But it feels like there's a bit of a mixed atmosphere around this movie, and I can't quite work out what people are feeling towards it. The trailers are a bit of an odd one. The latest one opened with like an interview between Lois Lane and
that was weird.
Yeah, and it led to just a strange atmosphere around this movie.
Yeah,
I think what it's the politics that led up to it, and then it's the corporate politics. It was getting rid of his first move was getting rid of Henry Cavill. Which, fine, if you're gonna like do clean slate and you're just gonna recast everybody, I think people would eventually understand that. But now you're bringing in, John Cena and his wife and other stuff. So there's people who are being carried over from the Snyderverse. Now they might be, Jason Momoa is going to be playing. I'm blanking. Jason Momoa is going to be in it. Yeah, Lobo. God, my brain's farting today. But yeah, it's been that. It's been the Snyder fans. It's DC fans. That's just kind of how they are. Plus, this is the fifth like major thing, counting. If you go back to TV, it's more. But redoing of Superman, and yeah, this is going to be dissected online. I think that's pretty normal. But it's been kind of the worst marketing campaign I've seen. I think the last trailer was fine. I think Perry did a better version of it personally, but I just don't think it's swept everybody off its feet. And this thing, they basically called their shot with it. They ended the DCEU, the second version of the DCU, after they got rid of Snyder, and then they bring James Gunn in, and it's been all about James Gunn. It's James Gunn. He's putting himself on variant covers of comics. He's animating himself into his creature commandos. It doesn't, I don't know. It feels like the focus is on him and not Superman. No, it is. The focus is on him and not Superman. It doesn't feel that way. That's the way it is. So he's kind of brought it on himself.
Yeah, he's very ego-driven, ego-driven with the way he's gone with this whole thing. It's all about him because, I think that's actually a way to deflect from the fact that the Cavill thing happened. All these recastings, everything's restarting. If it's all on him, it takes away from the actors being attacked, because Corn Sweat was getting annihilated because he wasn't Cavill. So it might be a smart tactic to actually bring it all to, the whatever you want to call him, the director. He's the director, but like the figurehead for the whole thing might actually be smart that they're bringing it toward him.
See, I think what happened with Superman over the last 30 years is it's been so beholden to the Christopher Reeve image of Superman. He's always measured against Christopher Reeve, and that's, Superman's my favorite movie of all time. Like I've told people, I own the cat stuffed that Superman rescued from the tree. I own Christopher Reeve's cape.
That's brilliant.
Superman's my favorite thing. But I do think it's really interesting what he's doing here, and I think he's doing something you won't even begin to compare with Christopher Reeve. I've got a feeling his Superman seems really blue collar, and it really intrigued me. Like he only got like a couple of lines as Superman in that trailer, but that bit where he just sounds like a kind of regular guy. He's like a farmer who's come to the big city, and he's just got these Jimmy Stewart 1940s principles, and is just bringing a bit of wholesomeness to the big city. He's doing something different here, and I think you needed an actor that could pull that off. And Corn Sweat's a Juilliard trained actor. He's going to pull off a Clark Kent, I think, that's going to be at least as good as Christopher Reeves. This is a performance he's doing, but he's got that big weird on his hips kind of walk and the goofy hair and everything. I think we're going to see something really special here. It's a big swing. He might not pull this off, but I think we might be looking at the best performance of Superman we've ever had. I think this could be amazing. I could be completely wrong, but I've got a feeling there's something special being cooked here.
He's definitely leaning into the Silver Age. You talked about that yesterday, Mark.
Which I love. My Superman is...
and that's something nobody's really done. Yeah. So
the technology was there for it. Now you can have the Bottle City of Candor. You can have Superman going to other planets. This would have been so hard to pull off in the 80s and the 70s, but now we're ready for this. I don't know. It could be a film that families absolutely love and it makes over $1 billion, or it's middle-aged men like me who love it because it's the Superman we grew up with. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think it definitely incorporates elements that I think a lot of general audiences won't be familiar with, like Crypto, the super dog, and the Fortress of Solitude with the robotic. What do you even call them? Like they're his
Superman robots. These Superman robots.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Which, if you're familiar with the comics, I'm sure it all makes perfect sense. But like for general audiences, they'll be like, "What the hell are these things?" Like, I don't get what this is doing. And it's like you say, I think they're taking a bit of they're really swinging for the fences with this one in terms of what they incorporate from the comic book version of Superman. I just don't know if it will be received as well as they're hoping. And that's just a total guess on my part. I don't know. But I know that like people are super divided over the dog, for example.
Oh my God, I love the dog. See, my kids, that's the only reason they're interested in the film. I've got to say, in the trailer, they kind of perked up. I said, "Oh, it's the Superman trailer." My kids were like, "Dad, stop making us watch things you like," And then they saw the dog and they absolutely loved the dog.
No, I mean it's fair enough. Like, I mean, a dog with a superpowers and a cape on. It's like it's cute. It's definitely cute. It's just like I don't know how it gels with having a supposedly serious take on Superman, or at least like a supposedly serious movie with real stakes and like real villains. Like it opens with him, crashing out into the snow and like being beaten within an inch of his life, and so that's serious stuff. Then a dog comes in and rescues him. I don't know. It's an interesting tonal mix, I suppose.
Well, here's two thoughts, right? What he's doing is, like Lord of the Rings leaned into those beautiful paintings from the 70s and all that, and just it taps right into absolute classic Lord of the Rings, and everybody was like, okay, this is perfect. Like there's nothing wrong with these movies at all. Everybody's happy, It's the best version of Lord of the Rings. Superman's most popular periods is 1955 to about 1968. Now, globally, that's when Superman was at its peak in terms of sales. And he's leaning into that. And I think that's quite interesting because there was something about that period that really resonated with the public. Now, the flip side of that is I think my wife's a really good barometer because unlike me, she's a normal person, right? She's like a normal person who's you're just a mainstream regular person who isn't interested in all the niche things I'm interested in, really, right? And she'll go and see Wolverine. She's like, yeah, it's pretty cool because it's kind of like a world she understands. It's not that different from the real world. It's kind of like just a regular movie. James Mangold makes a good film, or Bryan Singer makes a good film, whatever. But see, when she sees super dogs and stuff, robots and all that, she's like, yeah, you're going with your friends to see this one, and that's my worry, because the 4-quadrant aspect of superhero films for the last 25 years is the people who didn't like this stuff were enchanted by it. And that's the big gamble here. It might just be for guys like us, as opposed to that mainstream 4-quadrant audience again.
That's tricky
that's
as well.
The two trailers, the stark contrast between the first trailer and the second trailer is trying to elicit a response in the audience. So the first trailer, starts with a sort of crash into the floor and then the dog, but kids respond quite well to that, to be fair. Like it grabs their attention quickly and then they see a CGI puppy dog. So I think kids actually quite like that. But with and that was a very kiddie-esque trailer, it was bright lights, bright colors, big giant kaiju. It's very, very kiddie-esque, very kid-focused. Now the second trailer starts with a very serious conversation, which I think is intended marketing-wise to resonate more with adults. I think that's what they've done with their marketing. I could be wrong, obviously, but I think that their aim is to try to hit a 4-quadrant film. Whether they do it or not, who bloody knows? I think what you're feeling from the general... So we're not a good barometer for whether a film's going to do massively well all the time, because there'll be a bunch of normies that just know Superman as a title and will go, yep, I'll go watch that because it's Superman. And the normies will be the ones that will turn up, I think, for this over the people that are, a bit more informed and a bit more sort of trepidatious with respect to all of this. There's an element of, well, I say that, I think normies will turn up, but I also think that there's a huge risk of them not turning up, because I think what we've experienced recently is a very real burnout from superhero and comic book movies as a whole. And there's a high sense of apathy that's set in with these products. Now, what we're going to find out is whether it's Marvel fatigue and people are just sick to death of Marvel and Disney and that world. And this could reignite that whole genre of film. Or we'll find out that it is just comic book movies in general that people are like, yeah, no, I'm done on this now, because they run their course like everything in film has. Westerns run their course. We may be seeing the end of the comic book movie cycle for a while.
I don't know about the comic book movie, because comic books is like novels. It's a medium as opposed to a genre. So Max Allan Collins' Road to Perdition, is a comic book movie. So I feel as if comic book movies are over the hump now and they're in Hollywood and it's like they're not going away. It's an art form now, But superhero movies,
kind of budgets, though, do you think?
What's that?
Do you think with those kind of budgets? I mean, Thunderbolts lost 100.
No, sorry, you're misunderstanding. I mean, comic book movies and superhero movies are distinct, though. So a comic book could be a detective thing. One piece.
Right. Sorry. Yeah. I mean more superheroes.
Yeah.
It's a misnomer.
Yeah, for sure, superhero movies are like. Look at the lineup. You used to go to San Diego and you'd see Marvel's next 18 projects on a screen, and now they show you 3. you know, because so much is dependent on how Fantastic Four does. As much as people pretend otherwise, Superman and Fantastic Four are absolutely pivotal. Their box office in terms of what they greenlight next. Everything else is up in the air until the box office comes in this, because this is the canary in the coal mine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before, where July is like this three-way battle between Superman, Fantastic Four, and Jurassic World. And honestly, like, my money's on Jurassic World in terms of box office takings.
I think so too.
But if I had to pick between these two movies, I'd probably bet on Superman over Fantastic Four, because one, I think it's got more resonance with normies, and two, as Mr. H was hinting at there, I think Marvel fatigue is more prevalent than superhero fatigue in general. I think that both of them have, definitely a place, but I think people are particularly getting tired of the Marvel formula, whereas they might be more inclined to give Superman under a new, leadership with James Gunn more of an opportunity than they would the Fantastic Four. So
Pedro Pascal fatigue as well. Don't forget about the Pedro Pascal
100%. Yeah,
100%.
100%.
Wait, is that reflected in the box office though? Or was that
well, this might be the first time. Who knows? But definitely, there's been a downturn in people not wanting to see him more. I mean, it used to just be us guys, and now I'm seeing all over the internet, everywhere I turn, everyone's like, "I'm sick of seeing this guy." So it's infiltrated the average person now.
He's tricky as well, because a lot of the time he's like a supporting actor in a movie, like with Gladiator 2. Like, I can't really blame the failure of that movie on Pedro Pascal, but I don't think he helped.
No,
I think Fantastic Four will bomb. Fantastic Four as a property has actually never done well historically.
Yeah,
it is kind of interesting though, because technically, it's the first family of Marvel up against the first DC character. So it's actually a really interesting dynamic that most people aren't even paying attention to. My biggest issue, and I'd love to hear Mark's perspective on this. I think they're doing a huge mistake. They're making a huge mistake by adding so many characters in the first Superman movie. They have a Green Lantern. They have, they have, what was it? Hawkgirl? I think. Yeah, I can't even remember all of them at this point. They added so many. I was okay with Crypto. I'm like, okay, that's one, but it just feels like it takes
the engineers in it. Mark, got the engineer, Metamorpho, Hawkgirl.
It depends how you play it, because I think there's a way of doing this where Superman was the first superhero, apart from the Crimson Avenger. 1938, Superman was the first ever superhero, and that can't be done now because we've had 25 years of superhero cinema. You can't really play Superman as the first one. But what could be quite cool is, you've seen the Marvel characters, you've seen the violent heroes, Wolverine, Punisher, all this kind of thing, and then Superman showing up in this very crowded superhero environment where they're all on the payroll of Maxwell Lord and all this kind of stuff, And then Superman comes in as this idealistic guy from the Midwest, and he shows you how to do it right. I think that's quite a clever way in 25 years into this superhero wave. If they take that route. It's so unknown though, isn't it? Because we don't know much about this film. We actually know almost nothing about it. I don't even know the tone that they're going for, So it's such a roll of the dice. But I'm a great believer in like Newton's law of motion, right? And it's like, if three things has happened, a fourth thing will probably happen in that sequence. Like James Gunn generally doesn't disappoint. So I think if I was putting money on anything, I wouldn't put it on Fantastic Four. I'd put money in Jurassic World above all, but I would go. I'd go Superman over Fantastic Four for sure.
Yeah, it's funny as well.
Sales,
I think at this point as well, because you kind of hinted at this yourself, like after we've done the whole like ironic postmodernist take on like superheroes and what it means to be a hero and all that, and like the deconstructing the childhood heroes that you grew up with. It's become now this like crazy revolutionary act to just have a honest to goodness, old fashioned good guy who just wants to do the right thing, like Superman, like the world's first Boy Scout. That's kind of like the crazy like world that we live in now with cinema. Like we've come full circle, where now just being old fashioned and normal is like this crazy new wave of storytelling.
Remember, history is a circle. History is a circle. It's never a straight line. So like what was fashionable goes out of fashion and comes back into fashion again. So this just feels like, it feels right for now. I don't know, and I actually feel it feels kind of like the 80s just now. Where I think Americans are going to rediscover a sense of identity, and this is outside of politics. I don't mean right or left or anything like that, but I think I've just got a weird feeling that Americans are going to get into this. You know, it feels like a patriotic, everything good about America movie. You know,
I think
I'm going to lean into that.
The market, I get the feeling, is crying out for stuff like that.
Yeah,
as you say, like that's we talked about this before on Open Bar. That's why Top Gun Maverick did so well. It was like just a patriotic, pro-America movie,
which isn't political because America means everything. It means a lot of different things. You know?
Yeah. But like people absolutely loved it, and it's like the market's primed for that sort of thing. Give it to them, just give them what they want. Like that's what your audience wants. Like we're ready for it. Just do it. And like it's not just exclusive to America. Like I think even people around the world can get behind that sort of thing because generally, like particularly in the West, like Europe and stuff, they do look up to America as like the benchmark for like culture and world leading and you know, saving the world from space aliens or whatever the threat might be. Like that's kind of what we grew up with, and people are ready to see that again.
Yeah, so, I mean, you're not counting on Belgium if there's an alien invasion. You're counting
not really, no.
Count on Wales. We'll do it.
Wales.
You just confuse the shit out of them with your language, and they're like, "Nah, we don't want."
You would just start telling them your names, and their heads would explode. So
I did like. I like
allies
this.
or enemies.
I like this super chat here. I saw a clip of Christopher Reeve where he explained how to portray Superman as a friend with gratefulness and love after losing his planet and being adopted, which is not how the trailer came off, which is kind of interesting. And yeah, it's like, well, as we said before, it opens with that kind of confrontational interview with Lois Lane, and it's like, I don't know, people come back to this idea, I think, of maybe James Gunn projecting some of his personal experiences onto a movie like this, where Superman is maligned by Lex Luthor as part of a negative PR campaign to discredit like what he tries to do in his good work through the guise of social media and that kind of mob mentality. Obviously, James Gunn's experienced some of that in his career when, you know, he got cancelled for a while and had to leave Marvel. And I think that's maybe what people have reservations about. It's like, are you going to use this movie as like your sort of opportunity to strike back at the critics? Or is it just going to be something completely different? I don't know.
I don't know, because I think think about Star Wars. You know, Star Wars was basically about a boy who didn't know his dad. It was the first generation of guys, you know, the boomers, you know, who grew up not knowing their dads, you know, because that was unusual at that point in time. It was a new wave when marriage was disintegrating post-60s. It was about Vietnam. It was also about World War II and everything, you know. So people write these things without realizing they're writing about their own lives. You know, James was probably halfway through the script before he realized he was writing about what had happened to him, you know.
Yep.
Subconscious writing. There's always subconscious writing in everything you do, no matter what it is. There's always a perspective that you're doing it from yourself. No matter how well you remove yourself, you will always be the one making the final decision in the script or the book or whatever it may be. So you will always put some subconscious bias into it.
Yeah.
We talked as well about Fantastic Four there. Like, it is my understanding that movie has also gone through some pretty extensive reshoots as a result of bad test screenings. And essentially the whole third act of this movie has been redone. I'd be curious if you guys know anything about that beyond what we've seen so far.
Not beyond what I've seen, but it's not a surprise at all. And there was a test screening yesterday, so and I'm sure it's already hit Reddit. Like everything about it's hit Reddit.
Yeah.
How did it go?
The very third. I don't know. It's like it's a game of telephone. So I heard it for like third person, fourth person. That the person who saw it gave it like a 7 out of 10, but said it's kind of hollow. The thing kind of takes a back seat. There's no real character development. It's definitely Sue's movie. And the female Silver Surfer was just there, like, which makes it even more infuriating that they did a female Silver Surfer. They're just going to have her be there for a couple of scenes. But not horrible. But this is a person who said it from a test screening. I have no freaking idea. And there might be other stuff on Reddit.
I'm going to throw a bomb into the conversation here, right? Which is that the Fantastic Four was revolutionary in 1961, right? Like, it was superheroes who didn't have secret identities. It was superheroes with money problems. Like, it was unlike anything that had existed prior to it. But we've seen that co-opted into every other franchise going, you know, like it broke the rules, but then all these things came along that broke the rules even more. So then what made the Fantastic Four Marvel's biggest franchise with Spider-Man, probably from 1961 till about 1979, by the time X-Men took over, you know, it's kind of been superseded. And that's my worry with Fantastic Four. There's now been 4 attempts at the movies, and they don't quite resonate with the public. There's something about turning invisible and stretching and being strong that somehow doesn't work in the modern world. I don't know. And I hate to say that, but I think that's the problem with Fantastic Four. It's maybe an outdated concept.
I think you might be right with this one, because the previous movie attempts have all been, you know, trying to make it modern. Like, they've all been set in the present day, and like, you know, the ones from the early 2000s were, you know, trying to make it cool in whatever passed for cool in the early 2000s. Like, and you know, it was what it was. The Josh Trank movie, whatever the hell that movie was trying to be, like, that was just bleak, dark body horror nonsense. But that's just what happens when you put it in the hands of the wrong creative. But like you say, it seemed to fundamentally misunderstand what these characters were, which is kind of just taking the whole concept of superheroes back to their really simplistic roots of like, we're going to give like each person a special superpower, and then they have to learn to work together. And like, there's not really more to it than that. It's like a very stripped down, simple Superman style version of the superhero thing. It's not trying to be like crazy postmodern, any of that nonsense. It's just simple storytelling. But it's partly the fact that there's 4 of them. I think maybe like it's diluted a little bit. Like when it's Superman, it's concentrated into one person, so it's easy for that to be more timeless, more iconic. With these guys, it's like, well, it's team. It's never going to be as impactful, as memorable.
Didn't the 2000s one, I mean, the first one, that did relatively okay, didn't it?
Yeah,
it did okay. Like it wasn't amazing, but like that was a different era in superhero movies when
I'm just saying that,
kind
like,
of brand new.
I'd still say there's room for, I mean, first of all, budgets have got to come down, and then I mean, storytelling's got to go up. Even if the characters' abilities and combinations are relatively basic, I would never want to advocate that like what we need to, you know, make audiences jazzed is getting heroes with complicated powers, like the ability to manipulate sugar particles or something. To be like, well, yeah, fun, like, and there's a lot you could do with it, but it's just like, you know, I'm all up for. It's funny. It's kind of like it's what The Incredibles was inspired
Diabeto,
by
the way. That would be Diabeto.
Yeah. But like, look what they did with the X-Men, right? They were able to update that in a way that they couldn't with the Fantastic Four. That was able to exist within like that framework of the early 2000s, all the angst that came with that sort of time period, but still capture the socio-political commentary that was going along with the comics back then, and make it work and make it like actually really cool and incorporate some really good storytelling in that. And they were never quite able to make it work with the Fantastic Four. So probably the smartest thing they did with this new one is to set it in like that 1960s aesthetic. You know, just take it back to its roots, because it somehow fits better there. I just don't think it's going to have that mass market appeal of something like Superman.
Just remember, if this thing makes, let's say, 400,000, we're like, ooh, down it goes. Like, well, if it had a budget. Sorry,
400 million.
400 million, yeah. If it had a budget,
that would be huge news.
I know. Could you imagine? But if it had a budget of, let's say, 90 million, it'd been like, oh, well, that's getting a sequel, you know? It's just like that seems to be one of the biggest problems they're dealing with. They cannot. Everyone was like, why is everyone predicting that Mission Impossible is going to fail? Why do you hate it? It's like, it's got nothing to do with hating it. It's just got no chance. That budget's insane.
I was in one of those Marvel meetings early on when we were talking about Avengers, right? And we were sitting out, it was on the Iron Man set, and the guys were talking about the plan to put all the characters together in one movie. And I said, well, what are you going to do after this? And they said, well, we'll do Avengers 2. And I was like, well, will it be weird to go back to just an Iron Man movie or a Spider-Man film or whatever, you know, for everyone when you've seen everybody all together? And they were like, that's a kind of good point. And I think we're kind of there a bit now. That I think if we'd seen this trailer for Fantastic Four in 2004, we'd be like, this is amazing. You know, like, this is fantastic. But our expectation is so sky high now. You know, they almost cannot please audiences now, can't they? You know, like after Avengers Endgame, where do you go from there? You know? So
apparently
it's slightly disappointing, whatever. I mean, I feel that personally. I just feel I'm done. You know, like they've taken it to where it could go almost. You know?
Well, apparently where they go next is Avengers Doomsday, which is literally just, hey, look how many people we've got to be in this movie.
That is the end point of this current era for sure.
Yes.
But I mean, you know, technically one could argue they did pull it off in phases 1 into 2
they did.
into
Absolutely,
3.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's when they were still doing distinctly different characters. You had
storytelling was still intact, because we would argue that Endgame gave them an amazing launching point to have a whole, we could say, 3 years of doing whatever they wanted, and people would be looking. So that's where you build up again. Like we were saying, street characters, need to introduce a whole bunch of them, really small stories, low budget. They would explode in the box office, get a whole bunch of money, and then build them back up into a big payoff again. Instead, we got what? What was that? Phase 4 and 5? What was
Phase
that?
4 and 5 was all about going to different dimensions and stuff, because they realized that the power creep took them too high. That was the issue. But like, how do you come back down from half of the universe not existing anymore?
Yeah,
it's hard to bring that back down and ground it. I actually agree with Drinker that taking this back to earlier is a great idea. One of the issues with the Fantastic Four often is it's the familial aspect is so important to them, the way that they interact with one another. And I think one of the issues and why they don't evolve like the X-Men kind of can get replaced. You know, you can take this character out, have him do his own thing. You know, you can create a new team with the X-Men. The Fantastic Four, whenever they tried to make a new team, replace somebody, it never really worked, because the familial aspect was so important to the way that they interacted. And we're in a different place than even just 15 years ago with families, nevertheless in the 60s. You know, that dynamic is so much different nowadays. And it's hard. That's one of the reasons why it's so hard to translate.
Also, The Incredibles murdered them. You know, like The Incredibles shot them dead in their beds. You know, so like, I mean,
Incredibles is fucking great though.
You're not going to stop The Incredibles. It's the greatest animated movie ever made. You know,
let's not talk about The Incredibles 2 quite so much.
No. And hey, it's funny we bring that up, because The Incredibles had the it was, what aesthetic would you say that was? Like 60s, 70s sort of.
It did.
They went back as well.
Yeah,
it's cool as shit.
I wonder how many franchises would benefit from doing stuff like that, because we talked before about things like James Bond. Like, oh man, they would make bank if they set it in the 60s or maybe the early 70s, and made it a period piece rather than like having to grapple with modern technology and it not being the Cold War and all that stuff.
1930s Superman movie would be amazing. I mean, this is the stuff people will be making in their bedrooms with AI, you know, but like a 1938 set Superman movie would just be a dream, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
be great.
Yeah.
I don't know what they do, but they should have made a plan for 4 and 5, and they've had to scuttle so many plans. So the biggest difference is they built up to something over phases 1 through 3. They put little kernels of, you know, the Infinity Gauntlet all the way through it. Each movie was different, and you mentioned this yesterday, Mark. They had like really good directors, and now, you know, Fantastic Four is basically a TV director, and the Thunderbolts was basically a TV director. So we have like inexperience, no plan, no real story. It's all homogenous now. It's all basically they turned everything in the Guardians of the Galaxy. It's all the Marvel humor, and it just doesn't feel distinct. And now, you know, like the Fantastic Four is going to look so radically different because they're trying to go for a style for the first time in a while with the retro futurism. I just don't know if it's going to work. They oversaturated the market. They should have taken like we all said this, they should have taken a breath after Endgame. They never should have done the freaking 5-year blip. That's something that's writing yourself in a corner. That was like unbelievable. That would have repercussions for centuries.
Well, they both did it and didn't do it.
Generations.
Like they made that an event that happened, and then they didn't do any consequences for it. It was like one property that kind of sort of addressed it, maybe.
It's actually funny to note the MCU reaching that sort of point of maximum convolution, which is what happens to the comics. Like every once in a while, you have to do some big house clearing event to reset everything, and that's pretty much what they're building up to with Avengers Doomsday. Because, we commented on this before, and I think even Kevin Feige acknowledged it. Like, they're getting to the point now when you watch a new movie, it's just homework. Like, you have to watch like 5 different TV shows and like 6 different films to get all the backstory for all the different characters to understand what the hell's even going on now. And it's not fun anymore. It's just work. And so, like,
but they did that themselves, didn't they? I mean, you can't.
I mean, it's inevitable, though. Like, when something goes on for that long, you're going to run into these kind of problems.
I mean, they built a rod for their own back with Marvel. Like, they lent way too heavily into, it's the interconnected universe. We're the first people that did it. And it was just bloody every property. Oh, this person's in this one. And, these events have ramifications for this one. I'm not watching 10 bloody TV shows. Go away, mate.
For the record, though, like, every time this comes up, I want to clarify. Watching these things does not make them better. As in, do all your Thunderbolts homework makes Thunderbolts worse.
Sure, but like hypothetically, like that's the thinking behind it. It's like
you
would need to in order to understand these characters. And like I think as Mr. H said there, it was the TV shows that really scuppered them. Like when it's say 2 or 3 movies per year, you can sort of keep up with that. Like it's not too much to ask of people. When there's like multiple TV shows mixed in amongst all that you may or may not be interested in watching, but you're kind of expected to. Otherwise, like it'll have repercussions, like 3 movies down the line. That's when it becomes too much for people. That's when you lose your audience, and it's too convoluted.
Well, I'm going to say something horrific, right? Which is that it's really hard, to bring this stuff to the screen and make it work. Like Richard Donner did it, Tim Burton did it, but generally most of the 70s and 80s versions are terrible. They don't work. I like them as a weirdo who collects these things. I enjoy them, but it just didn't work. And what they did in the noughties was they had Christopher Nolan, they had auteurs, they had Sam Raimi, they had Bryan Singer, they had really brilliant directors. And I think they forgot that it wasn't just the characters that made this stuff work. They actually had brilliant directors bringing it to life, and they forgot this. The same as the comic people in the 1990s forgot those amazing 80s creators is what made Daredevil work and X-Men work and everything. You can't just give it to your pal to direct in the same way you couldn't give the comic books to your pal. It has to be somebody brilliant because superheroes are really easy to get wrong. And in television in particular, I don't think the talent pool was there. It needed that A-list bunch.
It's funny you mentioned that, considering we got because I actually agree with you, but this is an interesting piece of information, right? Sam Raimi on MOM, or Tim Burton being thrown into Dumbo, or Guy Ritchie being thrown into Aladdin. It's like, what's going on with all them? And it's like, none of them seem to have very positive opinions of the experiences of making these movies in this era, because they're more, as Gary puts it, cast rather than set free to make their own sort of projects.
A lot of them came in. I mean, I know a lot of the behind the scenes stuff and that stuff, and a lot of these films were actually up and running already,
Yeah.
They just kind of came in and finished almost,
That's
they were running as
a movie,
Well, even in the early MCU, they were running as individual movies that then got brought together, as opposed to a larger thing that was being splintered out into others. And when they started doing that, they had people that were in charge of, hey, well, does this make sense with this? And then those people inevitably either got fired or moved on or whatever happened. And now it's pretty much, I don't even know, does anybody even know who is the continuity czar anymore of the MCU? Because whoever it is terrible at their job.
Well, do you know, they used to have Joe Quesada, Brian Bendis. I was on the first Iron Man, but I left Marvel right about 2009. But all the guys they had were great guys, like Brubaker, Bendis, and everyone. And they were actually like Jiminy Cricket on the shoulder of any director, and they would say, no, this is terrible, and they would calm people down and make them go in different directions. And then there was just some weird, it was kind of like the genie at the end of Aladdin. They kind of went mad with the power of it all, and they just did anything they liked. They got rid of Bendis and Quesada and all these guys, but you needed those comic guys in there, I think. And I noticed that it went to hell once they lost those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Well, didn't they have the Marvel, what was it even called? The Marvel Creative Committee or something that oversaw all new Marvel movie projects?
I was in that for about a year or two, and it was actually great. It was really fun. And I it was terrible, right? I mean, I've never said this publicly, but I remember I was on the first Iron Man, and I was sitting in a meeting, and there was about 10 of us around this table, and there's photographs of this. You can find it online. And I remember sitting there, and I said, yeah, I don't like it. And everybody was like, what? And I said, there's some amazing stuff in this script, but about a third of it I really don't like, And like everybody was like, what? And I saw people getting really angry on the Marvel Studios side of things, And one of the Marvel publishing guys leaned over and said, you're actually just supposed to be here to say it's great.
Right.
And I said, I did not fly for 11 hours to lie. I'm going to tell the truth, And I never got invited back. It was the first time, but I got under everybody's skin and really annoyed them all and got them to change the things I wanted them to change, But it's like, you need that guy there, that annoying guy, to say this is not like the books. You're getting this wrong,
The loud American,
absolutely.
it's called a lot.
Yeah. Well, there always has to be someone questioning what gets done, and if you can't justify why it's being done, then it's probably not a good idea. And there probably at a certain point in Marvel there became too many yes men who would just go along with everything that was suggested, and that spread of projects, like particularly once Disney Plus launched, it would just, from what I understand, like Kevin Feige was pulled in so many different directions, like he couldn't even have more than a cursory knowledge of all these projects that were going on under his tenure.
I don't know if I quite buy that. I don't know.
Really?
He's hiring these guys, he knows what they're doing, Yeah. I think if those massive hits, he wouldn't have been saying that. He was stretched too thin,
It definitely sounds like Marvel blaming Disney for their problems. That's that way. And we know Rob Liefeld has been out there on a tear, saying the truth. We've been saying this for a while, and I honestly don't know who the hell you would replace him with.
Rob Liefeld. I would put Rob.
Rob Liefeld's been basically saying Kevin Feige's lost his fastball. I think Kevin Feige needs Tommy John surgery. I don't think he can throw a ball right now, and especially this year.
I would put Rob in charge. I think Rob understands Marvel in a way that other people don't, and he's got the most amazing commercial instincts. He's got some weird magic. Rob, I would love to see that. I think he would do really well in Hollywood.
The
give him a shot.
Absolutely.
The craziest thing is that they had an infinite number of people that would have done it for essentially free. Just bring in any comic nerd to just be the person to be like, this doesn't make sense, and you could pay them in nothing. They just put this to have the name attached to a project.
It's the
that, but Mark just explained they don't take people's advice that seriously.
What I'm saying, they didn't even need to pay for it. That's the best part about it. They could have just got it for free.
Yeah, but they might have heard it, but they wouldn't have listened to it. I guess that's the point. It's like
you have to remember
when they're going full steam ahead with this stuff.
The crazy levels of egos all over the place, right? Everyone thinks they know what's best or whatever, and just hearing anyone say, "Hey, maybe you should do this," they're like,
I can sort of understand to a point. See, when you get your franchise to the point where $1 billion movies are just becoming like a commonplace occurrence, like we're just printing money, man. Everything we make is just like pure gold. Why are you going to take advice from anyone who's like, oh, this isn't 100% comic accurate? Like, well, fuck you. Like, I'm going to make another $1 billion and, head off on my mega yacht for like a week.
We have a lot of examples of the source material being completely ignored for a film that does really well, right? Or films that the creator of the original source material hates the adaptation that everyone enjoys. Both, like The Shining is coming to mind, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
If you can imagine Kubrick being like, hey, Kubrick, you need to do this and this part of the scene, he'd be like, please leave my set. And he'd be like, okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's
something. Mark, what is your opinion on Civil War? That's actually a great question for that one that MauLer just said.
Well, I love what's happening right now, because I think what I'm seeing sort of behind the scenes is nobody wants to make these $200-300 million movies anymore, because they know they're getting fired on Monday when it underperforms, as they may be. Right? Everybody wants to make the $70 million movie again.
Yeah.
And I'm making right now 2 $70 million movies, and I love that, because if you make $250 million from a $70 million budget, you're a hero, and that's the way it should be. Like, no risk is taken when your movie costs $350 million. But $70 million, that's a very interesting space to be in. So I think like everything just got too fat, it blew up, and now things are getting more sensible again, So I think Hollywood's in a much more interesting place than it was 5 years ago. I like, we're not quite there yet, but it's coming back.
Someone suggested like they need Doge to audit Hollywood. Like they need a department of Hollywood efficiency or something. or DOME, in fact, Department of Movie Efficiency.
I'm not
Because
gonna
like the amount of
I'm not going to name names. One of my pals, I wasn't involved in this film. One of my pals directed a movie where they used a London nightclub, right? And they used the London nightclub for 3 days. It's a big superhero film, right? And they used this nightclub for 3 days. And the guy who owned the club said he charged them something insane, like $250,000 or something, for using it for like 3 days. And he said, and my friend said to him, "What would you have charged if I'd said it was a private party?" He said, $5,000, you know? Because it was a Hollywood film, they multiply it, you know? And it's like nobody actually looks at the books, you know, with these things. It's crazy the amount of money that's getting spent out of that. Nuts.
I have heard conspiracy theories that like when you're a producer on a movie like this, like you really don't get much at the back end in terms of like revenues and stuff. It all comes from the production budget, and so your pay packet is a percentage of the production budget. And so the bigger the budget, the more money you get because you get a percentage of it. So it encourages them, it incentivizes them to inflate the budgets to insane degrees because they get more money.
That's a really stupid pay structure. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's mad, absolute madness.
Yeah.
But we also get points though as well, which is quite nice. So if it, you know, so at the same time, you know, like in terms of profits, you get money too, you know. But it depends how your deal's structured. But yeah, it is absolutely a problem. Your production company makes 10% of budget. You know?
Well, as you just brought up, and it gets brought up in my video from independent producer Jim Agnew, who was talking to Film Threat. Like people are savvy to this stuff now, especially in LA. That's what's driving everything out. You know, he told an anecdotal story about. Yeah, I went to a bar in Kentucky. I got it filming a movie. I got it for $300, and the staff showed up for free as extras. In LA, or so if I and he got a courthouse for like a couple $100. In LA, the courthouse. This is outside of permits. Just the courthouse would be $50,000, and then you'd have to have permits. And then you'd have to have the right union people there, and they would have to have specific union people for specific jobs that are making $350 an hour. You know, and that's why everybody's leaving, and that's why these budgets are going crazy. And it's just because of the mass bureaucracy and everything right now. And it's I don't know how do you roll that back? It's like, oh, it was great, you know, especially 2019. You brought up multiple billion-dollar movies. That was the last year of like full releases. We had $11 billion movies.
Do you know
11?
Thing, right? This is horrific, and this is why I'm glad it's failing. I heard the most chilling thing, and it was one of my friends who's quite senior at Disney told me a thing, and he said Disney's plan, this was about 5 years ago, just before COVID. He said Disney's plan was to release 10 movies a year, but they wanted to make sure every one of them did $1 billion. And I was like, what? And they said they wanted to just shrink it down to just $1 billion movies. And it seemed very credible at the time. Their idea was to do 3 Marvel movies, 2 Star Wars movies, 2 Pixar's, 2 live action animation, and I can't remember the whole bunch. They had a formula, and the idea was that cinema was going to become this horrific cookie cutter $1 billion movie industry, and they sold tons of products based on that. And it was like the death of art. I mean, it was worse than AI. You know, that's like AI in human form. You know, and I'm just so glad it didn't work. You know, I'm so glad that we've had to reassess everything because what a horrific future for a studio.
Well, they helped pave the way for AI with that. You know,
they're still trying though, right? You know,
they'll always try.
They're chipping away at all of this. They're still trying to figure out how to make Star Wars work. They're not getting there. You know, you have Snow White crashing, but Lilo and Stitch is doing fantastically. And then
killing.
On the Marvel side of things, like Doomsday will make money, but I don't know that a follow-up will make money.
Well, Brave New World
will absolutely make money.
Thunderbolts is flopped.
If you follow the breadcrumbs, it definitely that makes sense because they were buying up properties like crazy leading up to. Eventually, what stopped that momentum of them buying up everything was COVID for the most part. I mean, I don't know what they were probably planning several other hostile takeovers at that point.
Yeah.
Oh, COVID. What's strange is they were allowed to work through COVID. They were completely okay. They were considered essential in the state of California. Unfortunately, not that much stuff gets made in California anymore. That was part of the problem.
Yeah, isn't that what they're trying to do with the new tariffs? Like trying to drive production back to California.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Because it's California and Gavin Newsom's there. And even if it helps them,
they're just trying to bring film back to the States. I mean, there's just been over $1 billion investment in Texas. They're trying to make Texas a film hub now, which is really smart. I mean, the tariff thing is a smart thing to do when you're from a national perspective for America. It is smart. It is smart to do it, to put tariffs on films which are made outside to incentivize everyone to start making films, in the country again, where that is the predominant market that they want, and they're taking advantage of massive tax breaks. I mean, good. I would much prefer Disney to get the fuck out of the UK and my tax money going to them. I'm sick to death of paying, because it will come out of my money, because the government doesn't have any money. It's my money. For 25.5% of Disney's production budgets. Like, no, mate, that's absurd, especially when they're just putting absolute drivel out there. Go, Disney. Be gone. Get out of the country.
But yeah, I mean, taxation is theft, Mr. H. Absolutely. But and they're misappropriating tax funds. But the whole thing is they're stealing less money. But the thing is, it still takes government workers to oversee this stuff. So they're still using our money for this shit. And sometimes it even turns into a fucking subsidy, which is just, that makes me sick inside. I hope they bring stuff to Texas. That'd be cool. I'm here.
Well, the good thing is, like, if they do film in the UK, though, they have to declare all of their expenses in order to
hilarious.
which is actually quite funny, because then you see how much they actually have to spend making these fucking movies, and it's hilarious.
I've got my spies. It's told me all the real budgets as well.
I can't wait to see the budget for Snow White, man. Honestly, it's gonna be hilarious.
Oh, that should be. We'll find out. I think early next year. I think we find out. And
it will have to be.
Yeah, it would be.
January.
It would be on.
That's when they file their tax returns.
Well, they might push it. Corporations can push their taxes until after the standard April tax date. So they may be able to push it back to like May or June.
Okay.
I've got it circled on my calendar.
Any chance we're going to see Kick-Ass Tuesday? If they're bringing back that era of superheroes, that movie is right up there with Raimi Spider-Man and Nolan Batman for me.
Do you know, I loved it. I was a big fan. I really enjoyed that film. It was great, But
it was great. Like, Nick Cage was awesome.
Such a good film. But my two youngest kids are 11 and 13, and they're dying to watch it. And I'm like, I'm not sure I'm ready yet. I'm going to wait another couple of years and everything. So I haven't seen it for ages, but I'm waiting to watch it with them again. But I loved it at the time. It's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah. RRTNZ says, awesome seeing Mark on the panel. I feel a bit more hopeful about Superman after hearing his thoughts. If anyone knows Superman, it's him. Cheers.
Yes, it is. That's true.
I know Jim, like James Gunn's a couple of years older than me, but he kind of grew up in the same books as me and everything. I think our tastes are quite similar. I think Gary's probably the same as well. I mean, I don't know. I've just got a good feeling about it. I tell you one thing, I do think it's the last roll of the dice I think this July is so pivotal. And what's weird is that these things have failed so many times in the past. Like Fantastic Four and Superman have failed so many times, and yet everything is dependent on them working this year. It's such a weird. Like X-Men and Spider-Man would have made much more sense. Something that people traditionally show up for. Superman and Fantastic Four. I'm scared, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah. That would have been great in the 70s. That might have been a good move for superhero movies. But now, I mean, like we've talked, you said it, the entire future of the superhero movie depends on July, period.
They might as well do a Sinbad movie.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Marvel, I want a Phantom movie again. Like the Billy Zane one wasn't really cutting it back in the 90s, man. I want to see another one of them.
Bring back pulp heroes. Bring back pulp heroes. The Shadow.
Man, that era needs a wee bit of a comeback right there.
Dude, the Shadow's public domain in the next couple of years, isn't it? Shadow.
I think parts of it is already, but it fully becomes 2 more years. I think.
Do you know I have a movie night once a week for friends in my house? I built a cinema under my house, and I have a kind of guys movie night once a week. And we did The Shadow a couple of months back. And it's such a good film. I really love the Shadow film.
I got it. Yeah.
It's cheesy, but it's fun. It's a fun film.
Hey, and the cinematographers survived that movie.
It's funny because I feel like Marvel's having so much trouble on how to work the X-Men into the MCU. The Fantastic Four just seems a little bit easier to do because they could just they could make it a period piece and it's only 4 characters. They have a very distinct way that they could have just been added to it. Whereas like the X-Men, you have to try to explain away how there's been mutants the entire time and no one said anything.
Yeah. I think they hinted
hang on,
at
you
it
say
with
that though.
various ones,
They're in a different universe, the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Age of Ultron brought us like Quicksilver and stuff, so like there's little elements of it, like the X-Men. Like, do they call them enhanced or something within the MCU?
Well, with Age of Ultron, they were basically given their powers through the Time Stone.
Yeah,
but
no,
then
that's Space Stone. Sorry.
They want to because they retcon then Scarlet Witch from being drawn it from the stone to she was a witch the whole time. If you remember in WandaVision, that got strange. And then I think it was Miss Marvel was supposed to be the first official mutant of the MCU.
Yes.
So
well, they made her the first official mutant in the show.
Yeah.
A show that
but even she got
watched.
Even she got her powers in a completely different way. So they still haven't really worked mutants in. Like it's like the real true. It's just people who are born with something that innately eventually pops. You know, they're still.
And some of these are supposed to have been around for a long time. Like when you're talking about Professor X and Magneto, like they've been around for decades, or theoretically they have. So
guys, though,
why are we? You're talking about all this as though they're going to be introducing them as though they've been a part of this world. We all know they're going to be multiverse in it.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah.
One thing I understand is that normal people hate the multiverse. They should kill this dead and never talk about it again. This is Sylvester McCoy, Doctor Who. It's like they have to put this in a box and forget this ever happened.
I think they are to some extent.
Sylvester McCoy. I'm going to defend Sylvester McCoy. That is Shakespeare compared to what we got now. Okay?
they tried to launch it with Jonathan Majors obviously being the centerpiece of it and Kang the Conqueror, and that didn't work out too well. So obviously they had to bin that, and I think Doomsday will just put a lid on it, and that
we saw from that.
Some of their issues are not made by them, unfortunately. So
that concept art that got leaked, right? It's just they're just going to have a bazillion universes. They draw whoever they want, wherever they want, and then big explosion at the end, and then they can pick up the pieces however they want and make their own universe like a jigsaw.
But nothing means anything with it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, this guy died. Well, there's a million other versions of him out there, so who cares? Like, it's a bad concept. Some of the appeal of it is definitely there, where it's like, oh, we can bring in, dead characters or like bring back actors from movies from 10, 15, 20 years ago and have them interact with guys from the current era and just explain it away as multiverse. And so the novelty value is there, but that's all it is. It's just cheap novelty. It's just like bashing different toys together from different like play sets.
Yep.
That's all it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you saw remember those chairs all laid out with all the names on the back? And it took 3.5 hours to show everybody's name and all that. It's like, you didn't know who 3/4 of them were for starters. That was bad,
Yeah.
But beyond that, it's like there's such a thing as too much. Isn't there? I'd rather see a good film with 3 guys in it.
Yes, 100%, 100%. Like, and particularly when there's so many, they get diluted, and the impact of each one is lessened because it's like, well, there's 24 other guys that are waiting for their turn to come in and have their 2-minute cameo. Why should I care about this dude?
Well, it's nuts because it's like Ian McKellen coming back as Magneto, and you're like. Michael Fassbender is kind of like a classic Magneto actor now. He's been in it for fucking ages. It's like, I guess bringing him back doesn't count as interesting. It's just fascinating to see the math that's done behind the scenes of like, what do people actually care about? It's like, I guess it's the old guard rather than the newer guard.
The new old guard.
I mean, they have been Professor X and Magneto for a while, and they're both excellent actors. It's just...
he's 86. They're gonna break him. That's what I'm worried about.
They're probably. I bet they've judged it on the basis of like a calculation of life expectancy, and it's like, well, or statistically, he's probably going to be around for a couple more years. We need to exploit him to his maximum potential. Then he'll die, and then we can use Fassbender.
Didn't you say he needs to play Gandalf ASAP because he doesn't know how long?
And they just delayed it. Yeah.
We went to see Mission Impossible the weekend, and we were thinking, I love Tom Cruise. I mean, I absolutely worship Tom Cruise. But it dawned on me that Tom Cruise is 2 years older than Ian McKellen when he was he was Gandalf and he was Magneto, which is insane, isn't it? Absolutely insane.
He's a guy on a movie set, though.
He's 8 years older than William Hartnell when he was the first Doctor.
I love he's like 5 years older than John Voight was in the first Mission Impossible.
Yeah, he was so old. He's all, look at Mr. Phelps is old.
I mean, I can't fault the guy's dedication to his to training and all the rest of it. Like he's still kicking ass, man. But wow. I thought at least they would start to lean into it a little bit and like acknowledge, yeah, he's getting a little bit older, maybe he's struggling a little, but like, nah, it's just business as usual. Just him being Ethan Hunt.
Yeah, Doomsday has a danger being Flash. I'm just starting to like, you know, the Nick Cage Superman and the Christopher Reeve Superman in there was so cringe. And it's like, that's what they're going to have to do. It's going to be really bad.
I'm so gutted we never got that Nick Cage Superman from the 90s.
I was watching Flash, and it's weird because there's a really great movie in Flash, and I think, see if they had a really likable lead actor playing the Flash, that would have been a really cool movie. There was so much stuff in it I liked, but it made me realize how important casting is.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to strangle him from the minute that movie started till the minute that movie ended, which really changes the way you watch a movie, isn't it? If you hate
just like he was strangling women in Hawaii. Yeah.
Well, dude, duplicating him in the movie, that made it twice as fun as well.
Oh, yeah.
Bouncing off the dialogue of themselves.
That was a great decision, wasn't it, MauLer? Two Ezra Millers.
It's just sad as well because, like, you get guys like Keaton coming back to this role, right? Yeah. And you kind of think when you're an actor that's done an iconic role like that, and you've essentially got one card, like my comeback card that I can play one time, I need to be really careful about when I play it. Fucking Linda Hamilton had it, and then fucking played it in Dark Fate. Like, why? Don't know. Michael Keaton played it in The Flash. Yeah, that's probably a bad move in retrospect.
Though he was awesome. I mean, I think
he was doing his best. He was doing his best.
He was great.
And yeah, he's not missed a beat. Like, same when he did Beetlejuice, actually. Like, the guy just hasn't changed in like 30 years.
It's so unfair that he's in this era because he's absolutely ready to go for like amazing movies, but you need writers, you need directors to take care of him, I guess.
Seems like more often than not, they whenever they cash in that card, like you were saying, it usually is, I'd say it's about 3-1 doesn't work out for them.
Probably not. Yeah.
Very rarely can I can't think of many times where someone brought back an old character and people were like, yeah, this was the greatest performance I've ever seen.
Unforgiven.
That's an incredible film.
That's an incredible film.
It's kind of like an amalgamation of a lot of his. Yeah, but that's like an amalgamation of a lot of his characters rather than a specific person.
He wrote and directed that, right? And starred in it. Like, he had huge control over it. So.
But it works. It really works, you know. And John Wayne back as Rooster Cogburn and everything as well. You know, like it's amazing when you reheat something you used to love. You know, it's rare, but when it works, it really works. Maverick just felt everybody felt it was 1987 again. It was great.
Well, isn't it weird?
That was one of the very few that worked.
Some people might cite Logan or something and be like, isn't it so weird that Logan is fast becoming like the middle of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine career?
You can't consider that like a return. He was only a couple years out. I think you need to have a minimum grace period for it to be considered a return.
Well, no, but I think what MauLer is saying is like that was considered like the culmination of his Wolverine career. Like he was done. Like, you know, it's his swan song, and it's like a big poignant goodbye to him.
And summarize what the character was.
And then like 5 or 6 years later, fucking hell, there he is back just
in his costume. In his costume.
And it's like the longer he goes on and the older he gets, and like arguably like the less appropriate he is to play Wolverine, the more they actually get his character right. It's weird.
Yeah,
and there's like 17 Wolverines in that film as well.
Yes, there is. There's Cavalrine.
Yeah,
Cavalrine.
That was cool, wasn't it? That was cool.
Yeah,
well, everyone's just rooting for Cavill to find a role that works for him.
He had one called The Witcher. The Witcher. That would have worked if the writer
wasn't
called
Superman.
I was about
to say,
one called
lumbered with a shitty director.
Yeah, both times he was put with somebody who didn't understand the assignments.
I mean, he was cast as his whole career, right, as well, in that random thing with Millie Bobby Brown. He's gotten so many amazing roles in title, but not so much in like what he ends up dealing with, I guess.
The end of his career will be marked by all of the failed opportunities that happened with him along the way. It will just be miss after miss after miss, and none of them will be his fault.
And it's such a shame because like sometimes that can happen. They just get bad luck, they get bad casting or whatever.
Williams,
Yeah, and it's
the Rock's ex-wife is their agent, you know, just bad things happen.
Yeah, funny how that works.
Yeah, that's pretty bad because they wanted him to basically take a back seat to The Rock. So
I took the family to see him in Argyle, like Matthew invited us along to the premiere for Argyle because we're old friends. And my kids saw Henry Cavill, and I said, "Oh my God, it's Superman!" Because he looks like Superman in real life. You know, he was standing on the red carpet beside us as we were going in. And my youngest daughter said, "That's not Superman, that's Sherlock Holmes."
Yeah.
Oh my
I love it.
Oh.
The whole generation used Sherlock Holmes.
That's the problem, though, isn't it? It's like the cultural impact of any of these given roles. I don't know what comes to mind first when you see Henry Cavill in terms of this most famous role, the role that means the most to you.
Well, the one he never played, which was James Bond. It's like every time I
Someone
see him,
just
I'm just
mentioned
like,
in the
fucking
chat.
should have been Bond, man.
Someone just mentioned in the chat his shelved Highlander reboot. It's just like everything that you hear about him, it's shelved or wrong director, canceled. He was too much of an
Highlander
annoying
got
person to
sold
deal with.
to Amazon.
Yeah, Highlander got sold. Yeah,
He's going to go down in Hollywood history as like the biggest waste of potential.
Can I just say,
Man from U.N.C.L.E.
years,
Great
I've
movie.
got
by the way.
I've got a plan for Henry Cavill. You know, I've got a plan. I won't say who the director is, but we've been talking. We have the ultimate thing for Henry Cavill. I'll tell you, Gary, privately, you know, and Drinker, I'll tell you. But when you hear what this is, you'll be like, perfect, you know, because he's been waiting on the right thing, and this is the right thing for him, you know, like, because he's a cad. I think Henry Cavill's a great cad, and I've got a great cad part for him, you know, that's going to be pretty cool. So let's talk about this in 2 years, and we'll see. You know, I don't you know.
Let me ask you a little as well, because I know you've got a crowdfunding campaign that you've just launched for Psychic Sam, haven't you? That is
very
yeah.
Sorry. My friend John Romita Jr. and I, not to get into pimp mode and everything, you know, but Johnny and I, we have our first ever Kickstarter just launched a couple of days back. So really exciting. It's cool. So we wanted to do, like, you know, those kind of movies you would say to your mum, "Can I get this out the video shop?" You know, and she'd be like, "No, you're too young." We wanted to do a film kind of like that, like a kind of 80s action movie kind of thing, you know. And we teamed up with Guy Ritchie's producer, and we're putting it together as a movie. And the comic is just launched on Kickstarter. So it's a kind of classic tough guy 80s action movie is what we're trying to do with this thing.
My God, we need more stuff like that.
Something
that's the kind of thing we want more of nowadays.
$1 million, something nice and basic. Loads of guys getting killed. A big tough guy with a gun taking down, you know, bad guys. And the concept is really simple. It's such an easy idea. You know, the setup of this thing, for anybody who's interested in this, will give you the 1 minute version, is a guy who basically hears one day before a murder happens, someone whispers in his ear and basically tells him the name and address of who's going to kill somebody tomorrow. And if he ignores it, an innocent person dies next day. And he does. The first few times he ignores it because he thinks he's going mad. And then he realizes he has to kill the bad guy. He has to shoot, hammer, hit with a baseball bat, whatever, take down a bad guy the day before he murders somebody. And that's what the story's about. It's like, what do you do in that situation? He's a blue collar, kind of like one of those John Carpenter type heroes, just a truck driver kind of thing. He's got to murder people to save innocent people. You know, that's the setup.
I like that. It's like I love the way you phrased that as well. I'm sorry, I've got to murder you. I just got to do it, man. Got to save some innocent people. But no, the link to the Kickstarter there is in the description for this, you know, for this video. And yeah, it's already. I think you've already hit your funding goal. It's already at like well over £30,000 that's been raised for that, and it's only been out for a couple of days. So
yeah, I
awesome
think we're about $2,000 or something. You know, we're just going to drink it. Johnny and I are just going to have a big night out, and we're going to blow this cash. You know,
that's
so
the Scottish way.
Wrong, you know?
No, it's good to see. And yes, you're doing a movie about it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, you know, The Gentleman is awesome.
Yes,
Mobland is awesome. Wrath of Man is awesome. And Guy's producer through all these movies has been a guy called Ivan Atkinson, who you guys would love, right? Ivan's like a 7-foot-tall cage fighter. He's a jiu-jitsu expert, shaven-headed cage fighter. And I met him, and instantly we were like best friends, you know, and we were like, we should do something together, you know. So he says, what you got coming up? And I told him about Psychic Sam, and he was like, right, we've got to do this, you know. So we're making the movie right now, you know. So super exciting.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, like Mr. H, I appreciate your thumbnail there.
Yes.
That's got me down, all right. Sydney Sweeney and everything.
Yeah.
There was actually a super chat that mentioned her earlier. I hope we get to it eventually.
Oh yeah, we'll do our best. Yeah, man. The other thing that MauLer and I have been covering this over the past it feels like past several years at this point, and I forced him to watch it. But we've reached the end. We did it, MauLer. We did it, and now he's probably going to get free dibs to like inflict torture upon me. But yeah, we got to the end of The Last of Us season 2, and it's over now. So I feel pretty good about that. It seems like the audiences aren't though, because apparently the finale is down 30% from the beginning of the season,
and they had everything to work with that opening. The numbers. So it's you could almost like definitely track it to the audience are not happy with the events of the story. Which shock, horror! Who could have thought? It can't hit you anymore.
The memories still hurt.
I thought that once I was done with the game, but here we are.
Yeah, well, that's they find new ways to come back and haunt you. I might not force you to watch season 3 when it comes out because
All right, someone click that, please.
I said I might not force you. I might still. It depends if you anger me or not.
Oh god!
But my god, what a horrendous season! I don't think I've seen possibly any show fall from grace so quickly. No, this was worse.
What?
This was worse. Like
Arcane was like season 1 was fucking like 10 out of 10, then season 2 was like 1 out of 10.
Yeah, but I think people were slower to get on the uptake for that. They were slower to turn against, whereas this was dramatic.
They had a warning with this one though, because they were adapting one of the worst fucking game stories ever. So people.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people, like a lot of normies, either hadn't played the game or they didn't want spoilers, so they stayed away from it. And so it was a whole new generation of people that got bitterly disappointed by what they did.
Yeah,
with
the TV show audience, those poor fuckers, they didn't know.
Second episode.
Yeah, and this has been so dramatic. Wow. Yeah, I think now that we've got to the end of it, I can look back on it and just say they actually did worse than the game. They told this already bad story in a worse way than the game did, even. And I think that's genuinely impressive.
They did actually miss some stuff from the game that made it make more sense. I can't believe those are words that are coming out of my mouth. There we are.
Yep. Performance wise, vastly inferior to the performances that they got out, the voice actors, the motion capture and stuff for the games. In terms of how things were laid out, the game actually made more sense. So I can't believe that they might have actually raised the profile of Last of Us Part 2, the game, just by virtue of being terrible.
So, like, famously in the game, when she goes to kill Abby, she ends up killing a pregnant lady, and like, if anyone has seen my playthrough of it live, I like had Joker laughs. I was so just beyond, like, I couldn't believe the misery porn I was watching. Like, oh, she accidentally killed a pregnant lady when trying to kill someone else after killing thousands of people. I was just like, yeah, okay, like that's what we're doing. Fine, you know what? There's nothing meaningful to be had here. In this one, though, that happens, but the girl lasts, like, she's alive long enough to try and direct her through doing like a cesarean, but it doesn't complete. I was just like, why are you making this even more like disgusting? And
it doesn't, it's not like it doesn't complete. Ellie doesn't even try. She's just like, no, I don't want to do this. And then the woman, the poor woman dies, and that's it. It's like the game was impactful enough just with Ellie killing her, and then like pulling aside the jacket and then realizing, oh shit, she was pregnant. I just killed a pregnant lady. That's awful. And that was, it wasn't the worst way you could have done it. It's still a horrible thing to put in the game, but like, it wasn't the worst way of doing it. The show was just so dumb and so over the top and so melodramatic. It's just, it lost all the impact. It just became silly.
Did you know that they didn't adapt the part where she kills the dog because Craig Mazin said that would be too misery porny?
Ha.
Like, are you serious? We can't be doing that. We can do the other stuff.
Unbelievable.
It might torment the audience, he said.
They did the whole conversation gets interrupted when someone's made a really good point that the writers don't know how to get around.
Yeah.
When Ellie's arguing with is it Jesse his name is?
Yeah. Who gets the same ending as the game.
Yeah, he just insta kill. But like his whole thesis is like I try to put other people first. Like I know I'm going to become leader of the settlement when the current leader retires and stuff. Like that's kind of what I'm being brought up for. And I'm trying to do right by my community. And she's like, "Oh fuck you! You're always so about your community." Like I tried to save a random person that we've never met before from getting killed, which absolutely would have got both of us killed if I'd gone through with it. But I don't care about that.
Yeah.
And then he points out like, yeah, you know what? Like I've done the right thing, or I've tried to as much as I could, and that resulted in me saving your life. What do you think about that? And before she can even answer, wouldn't you know it, they get interrupted by a radio broadcast because they'd run into a brick wall. The writers had run into a brick wall where she had no answer for him.
Well,
they couldn't resolve that scene.
He was fast becoming like a favorite character, which, by the way, takes one step on the ladder in order to become that in this show. But the fact that he said, like, I'm a father now, like, I need to survive. It's important because, not only for taking care of Jackson, but also my son that no one told me about, in theory, or my child. Not only for... Whoa.
Ooh.
Hi, that was me. Anyway, so listening to him make all of those appeals, and then for her to say, like, fuck the community, like, fuck all the people back in Jackson. Okay. This is a really quick way to make me like her even more.
She's genuine horrible person, and she gets even more horrible over the course of this show.
I really want to meet the person who wrote it such that she tries to say that, like, we desperately must save that random Seraphite person, even though it would get us killed, but we don't need to care about anybody in the home of the people that take care of us. It's just like interesting math there. I don't know how they want me to feel about it.
I mean, yeah, because you kind of like, if you want to put yourself into that situation, right, you probably are going to be oriented around your community, right? They are the people around you, your tribe, basically, that you're loyal to. They're going to watch your back. You're going to watch theirs. Okay. And that's the building blocks of trust and how you build your world. You're not going to sacrifice your life to save a random person that you've never met before, who you've got no idea what their allegiances are, what their worldview is, anything like that. So the idea that like putting your community ahead of some other person that you've never even met before, with no chance of success, and that somehow makes you a worse person than Ellie, like that's absurd. But that's the logic that this show operates on. Like, it doesn't challenge it in the slightest.
You mentioned as well, like, the way the conversations work. I thought it was really funny when it's like she finally reveals why Joel did what he did to Dina. All she tells her is they were going to use me for a cure, and so he killed them all. And Dina's like, I was like, no follow-up questions? No, you don't want to be like, what? He killed them all? Really? What were they doing? Why would he do that? That doesn't sound like Joel. Why would he just kill people who suggest that you should be used for a cure? What does it mean to use you for a cure? You know, like every question you could imagine. She's like,
Yeah.
Once again, it just feels like there's several times where they try and double down desperately on the whole Joel was a dick, Joel was wrong, Joel. It's like, yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Gary, I know that you're pretty much out of time here.
Sorry. I was going to contribute so much to this Last of Us conversation.
Yeah, no, that's kind of why I left this until the end.
But hey, thanks for having me on. Sorry, I got to bail out early. Lots to do, but I appreciate being on. Hail, Mark. It's great seeing you again. Guys, have a great day. Hail to the chat, and we'll see you later. Take care.
Thank you, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it.
I'll need to scoot off for a wee second as well. We just get in from London. I ran ahead of the family. You know, like I felt like a coward on the Titanic. I left the family at the train station and ran all the way home. So I've got to put the kids to bed in a wee minute. But I just want to say thanks very much. Have you done the Harry Potter chat? Have you guys done a Harry Potter chat already?
We haven't yet. No, we can.
Before I disappear, can I tell you a weird thing? See the wee guy who's playing Harry Potter, the new post-Daniel Radcliffe guy? Yes. He was in my kids' school the year ahead. So weirdly, I knew Harry Potter. It's the strangest thing.
Well, there you go.
A wee regular guy. As far as I knew, he wasn't an actor. And this wee guy is just suddenly Harry Potter. How awesome is that? My kids are really put out. Totally put out. They want to be Hermione and all that. And I was like, it doesn't work like that. You know, just because you kind of knew the guy who played Harry Potter.
But no, I want to say thank you, Mark, for coming on tonight.
No, it's all great to see you guys. Thanks for having us. And I'll hope to see you again.
Absolutely. And I wish you the best of luck with your Kickstarter.
I'm not quite sure where it links, if whatever, you know, if you go to my website, if you just type my name in, it'll pop up at some point, you know. So like I hope you enjoy it, anybody who backs it, and all the best.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Later, guys. Good night then.
See you, man.
Thank you. Should we start
So
ranting
cool.
about
It's
Last
like-
of Us again?
Sure.
I was gonna say, it's so cool because like that's the first time in my history of doing this YouTube thing where I'm like literally surrounded by things, because I have comics everywhere, as anybody who follows me knows. Literally surrounded by things by someone, was written by someone that was on the panel, which was really fucking cool.
That is pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. What were we discussing there?
Last of Us 2 dog shit.
Take your pick.
That's pretty
Yeah.
much it, wasn't it? Garbage.
Uh,
Absolute garbage. She's got a moon face. Moonface McGee. Awful actor. Why did they pick her? She's insufferable. They had a terrible decision to go from... Well, terrible decision to hire Pedro Pascal if you were going to continue down the path of the games, because you've got your archetypal character of insufferable woman, and then you have your, well, not insufferable woman, but insufferable individual, someone sort of stony face and stuff, and then you have your softened character who, you know, Pedro Pascal, Joel, softened us to what's her face, Bella Ramsey, and then you just murder him. And I've never played the game, so I don't know if this is the same in the games, but you murder our softened character who, you know, softens us to our other alternative lead, and then you just immediately replace him with some lesbo who no one cares about at all.
that's
then
basically what the
Dare
game
you?
does.
She was famously an alien Romulus.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Anyway, but she then becomes our softened character, so we don't hate Ellie so much. It's like, right, but I don't care about this character. I've just had a whole season with Joel. This is really dumb narrative. This is really dumb writing. This is dumb. Like, and I know it happened in the game, but I don't know if they immediately swapped them out for the lesbian
Pretty much.
to be our point of view character. It's so bad. That's terrible writing. It is exactly what you'd expect from a moron with subversive nonsense.
Like, at least with Ellie and Joel, they could spark off each other because they had they were different ages, different perspectives on life. You know, the conflict and interesting drama between them. Ellie and Dina kind of like smile at each other.
Well, right?
What's that?
It's also a father-daughter role as well, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Exactly.
You know.
But what they've replaced it with is just the most insipid and boring of gay romances, where they're just so nice to each other. There's
so nothing supportive to talk about between them.
Yeah, they've got nothing going on. There's no drama. There's no conflict. They don't spark off each other in any interesting ways. They have roughly the same perspective on everything. Even the game did it slightly better in that Ellie was like hyper focused on revenge. She was just like willing to risk everything for it. Dina was the one always trying to like pull her back from the brink a little bit. She was trying to be like the moral compass. So there was something there, at least. It wasn't much, but it was something. The show doesn't even have that. They're just basically the same person.
I was gonna say it's like the personification of all those things that we ever say. You know, people who are their entire personality is their sexuality. That's basically what's going on in show form.
I think it was Echo Chamberlain who talked about this once, right? He defined it as gay exceptionalism in media, right? Where like any gay romance has to be portrayed as the most loving, pure, perfect, beautiful like romance where like both parties are just super nice to each other at all points. Like they're so well adjusted, they agree on everything, they're supportive of each other. There can't be any hint of like toxicity or drama or negativity or anything. And so the result is
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I thought you were.
Yeah, well, the result is two people that are just boring as fuck. Like, there's nothing there to get invested in as a drama because there is no drama between them. And
I was going to say completely disregard the fact that lesbians have the highest divorce rate of all couples.
Well, sure, but I mean, you can go beyond that to just like get two people together who have different perspectives on the world, right? And then they can argue and they can you know, put forth different ideas, different perspectives, different worldviews, and it gives the audience something to chew on. It drives the story forward. Maybe they disagree about how they should approach problems or whatever. It's something. It's the essence of what getting to different characters together means. But you can't even have that. And so it's just boring as fuck to watch them. They've got nothing interesting to say to each other.
It feels weird too, because the way they've connected and adapting all of the bigger moments of the game feels strung together really incompetently. Like we said in the last episode, where they go from the forest getting shot in the leg, that sort of stuff, and then through a door, and it's into the payoff where she kills the that girl with the spores and everything. It's just like, oh yeah, we got to do that now. And it's just like, okay. This one especially, I was looking at the time and I was like, wait a minute. So we got to do the payoff where she kills all of Abby's friends. We got to get her all the way back so that then Abby can kill all of her friends. And I was like,
that is speed run.
Yeah,
it's crazy. That's in the last 10 minutes. Yeah.
Oh god. Well, they're probably. I'm guessing. I'm guessing that the third season will just be from the perspective of
Abby. It's all Abby.
Yeah, I mean, I had a theory. I don't forget which show I was on when I said this. My theory was that when all this was being determined and they were signing all the deals, to make this into a show, was probably relatively the same time the second game was coming out, and they expected the third game to be a thing, so they signed on for a third season, expecting there to be more material, and we all know where that went.
I think
now they have to split it.
I think they were happy enough with the narrative arc of it, but they were so convinced that people were just going to lap it up that they thought, okay, we can split this over multiple seasons because the game is that damn good. And so
look how far up its own ass it is with the end, right? So to be clear, can we show, by the way, I would like to, the how bad the cut to black is.
Yeah.
Because I think people should see it, 'cause it is so atrociously, awfully edited. But after it's done, we fade back in and we see the first scene of Abby's side of the story, so to speak. And she walks out and you see a whole area in the football field or whatever it is, and it says Seattle, day one. Yeah. And the show is like, whoa, we're going back in time. We're gonna see her time. And I was just like, you may have misunderstood your audience again. Like, who the fuck cares about this woman's whole story for a season?
Let's see. What's that, sir?
How annoyed must HBO be? Seriously, like, if you're HBO and you're looking at the figures, because didn't they have a drop off of? So from the premiere episode to the last episode, I think they dropped off 3 million. I think, is it 30%? So yeah. I know from the finale of the season 1 to the finale of season, it's unbelievably, the numbers, the drop off is crazy. Like, it's staggeringly high. And so if I was HBO, I'd be absolutely livid right now about, why am I wasting my money on this shit?
Yeah, dude, if only there was a way for them to predict this. If only they knew the story had been tested in another medium with an audience already. If only they knew.
Brainlets.
All right, so this
the
scene,
fact
the
that
context
black,
is
we should be able to good.
Abby has just killed Jesse and she's threatening to kill Tommy, and Ellie's like, no, don't do it. And this is how they edit this ending.
Why you killed Joel? He did what he did to save me. I'm the one that you want.
God, look at a massive face.
Oh, wait, I should be careful for copyright, right?
Yeah.
Well, you had it
let's talk about a bunch of stuff in between.
Talk about a massive face.
I had it on, dude. By the way, that was on 1.5 speed. You know why?
Besides copyright?
No, it's just because that's the only speed I can fucking watch these episodes.
Honestly, if you have it on 1.5 to 1.75 speed, we might be able to get through a little bit more, because
I would like to play it in its natural state, if you know what I mean. This moment, because it's so awful.
Yeah, just do it, man. Fuck it. Right,
let's do it.
I'll take the hit.
Let's get ripped down. Yeah.
Oh, is it going?
I let you live. And you wasted it.
No. This is a comedic edit as far as I'm concerned. I've seen loads of people making different funny edits of this online. It's just like, why did you do it this way?
As if anyone thinks, oh yeah, Ellie's fucking dead now. That's it. The show's over.
No, yeah. Well, I mean, this shit in the game was incredible. For anyone who doesn't know, at this point in the game, they reset you over to the beginning of Abby's story, and it takes 10 years to play through all of it until you get to see whatever happens next here, which is what they're doing now.
Or you could just not watch it.
Abby.
Or you could just not watch it.
I would like to not watch it, Dark Hour.
I'd
love to not watch it.
The end.
It's really up to Drinker whether or not I watch it.
You have your own agency, MauLer.
Did
You have your
I've
own
got to-
channel.
threaten
well,
me?
I've got
He was
to
gonna
say
go
as
after
well,
my
like-
family if I didn't watch it, so I had to.
You know, because I talked
You're an
before
eldritch
about like
god.
how this show is like inferior in terms of performances and stuff to the game. You know that scene, right, where Ellie returns from having tortured whatever the fuck her name is to get information out of her.
I used to know that Nora. That's her name, right?
Nora, yeah, let's go with that. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she is like Dina like strips off her clothes and she's got like the bruises down her back, like exactly like what they do in the show, because it's like completely just beat for beat remaking it. Why not just do fucking cutscenes from the game as a TV show? That would have been easier. But like the performance that you get from the expressiveness of that character's face when she's just staring off into space, and you can tell she's replaying the horrible shit that she had to do to get that information. That is some good acting, or that's some good animation, whatever you want to call it. It comes together quite well in the game. I will at least give it credit for that.
And
The
to be
show
fair, I
gives
do want
you-
to call it acting because they act it all out in those suits, right? And then it gets
Sure.
converted into the game. It's
Yeah.
Unfortunately a medium that's not taken as seriously for people to celebrate acting, but it should be.
It should be, yeah. Like stuff like that shows you the potential of what's there. But like the show version is so just flat and blank, and there's just nothing to it. It's just, I hurt her. I kept hurting her until she told me what I wanted to know. And like, I didn't feel anything because there's no performance there. It's blank nothingness. Like that's where the show just falls down again and again compared to the game.
I mean, the show's fucked now. The idea that it did this badly with its second season and the third season's not going to have anybody that like the audience recognize. This would be
No.
whether or not the game even existed. I feel like we'd be saying this is an insane fucking route to go. What the hell are they doing? Like, and what are they expecting?
The normies. I mean, the normies didn't play the game, and
Yeah.
so they've checked out from watching this as well. And this is the thing: is that narratives are universal. So if that narrative, played out in a game and it was rejected, you're then going to play that same narrative out in a series and think that it's not going to get rejected. You're moronic. Of course, it's going to get rejected.
Yeah, as though
Because,
gaming
again,
as an
what
audience
people-
are like,
what people
somehow...
like in narratives are pretty universal. So
yeah, like the TV
would-
audience is stupider. Don't worry about it. They'll like it or some shit like that. If it's anything to go by,
They're less
my
I would say
sister-
they're less invested, not stupider. They're not more stupid. They're just less.
I wouldn't say
invested.
that either. You have no idea. Like the audience generalizations that you have to be complicated because, like gaming. We were obviously hyper ready to talk about all the intricacies of the story when the game came out, but there's still a huge, broad audience for the games that maybe don't take it as seriously as we do, but they still hate it as well. Look at the numbers, right? And if it's anything to go by, my sister didn't play the game. She was watching the show. She really loved season 1 and season 2. I was just like, so what do you think? It was like episode 3, and she's like, not liking it as much as season 1. And I was like, no way. Like, that's crazy. What could
what
have
a
happened?
surprise!
Did you like the subtle messaging as well, like the mural on the wall of the bookstore when they're looking for Tommy, where it's like there's a meaning in everything, you just have to find it, or sorry, a moral lesson in everything. And I just thought,
Revenge bad.
motherfucker, like you're just reaching so hard for this. Like you genuinely think like what you produced was like the Citizen Kane of video games.
I mean, The Last of Us it's just a hilarious story in the second one. If she had caught up to those guys and Abby was in the room with them at the time, which could easily have been possible, and she shot her dead, then went home, everything would be fine. But it's like, no, because revenge bad. We can't be doing that. You're like, right.
Yeah, obviously we know it's going to get a season 3. I think the ratings will be in the toilet, even worse than this, because like this is such a downer ending for a season anyway. You've lost Joel. I can't believe I'm desperate for Pedro Pascal to come back to something, but there we are. You've got fuck.
I will say his episode
that icon should have come with a health warning, man.
Mr. H has the best, like his avatar game is on point.
Can we just get back to Sydney Sweeney, please?
Yes, please.
Yeah, you've got an unlikable protagonist, and now we're going to spend an entire season with someone who murdered the guy we actually liked.
I just want to be clear. There was an episode where he came back for the majority of it, and I did not like him in that one. You know what I mean?
Look,
like even bringing him
because
back,
he's a fucking pussy and he doesn't get
well,
to
that's
defend
that's
himself.
the thing. season 2's got a stink to it, regardless. That even if he were in the whole thing, I don't think we'd be end up like. I doubt we'd be celebrating it. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
but you're right.
Like
he would be missed compared to what we have to deal with.
A show that has fallen from grace harder, I think, than even Arcane did, because I think there's people still who are trying to defend Arcane season 2. I don't think many people are trying to defend Last of Us season 2.
I mean,
hey, that's fair.
I don't think it was that far of a drop off, Drinker. I think, I mean, I personally wasn't an Arcane guy, but people who love that put that at such a high pedestal, and for it to fall to where it was compared to this, which was just kind of decent, and then now it's on basically the same level. I don't think that they're comparable.
I like this comment here. I guess you were trying to say Caitlin Dever, but like let's say Caitlin Fever. We've all got Caitlin Fever here. For as little screen time as she's had, is the best thing this season. I think she's going to be a more likable Abby than what we got in the game, but that's not exactly.
I was going to say, is that Abby? Because I don't know the actress's name.
Yeah, Caitlin Dever. There's a lot of people pointing out she probably should have just played Ellie. At least she would have been a better choice.
So, what are you thinking right now in terms of like? Do you think you'll watch season 3?
No, but I'm going to make you do it.
Wait a minute. You don't.
I didn't watch season 2.
The ultimate vengeance.
Yeah. Oh shit, man. I don't know. Like, it's probably going to be like 2 years away, realistically, isn't it?
Yeah,
At least. Yeah. So we got time to think about it. We got time to recover. We got time to let the scars heal, and yeah, I might just watch it for the lols. I don't know if there's any to be found.
All right. I'm not going to like you still.
Yeah, you shouldn't. The one other thing I was going to talk to you guys about, and, well, you've probably seen it yourselves, actually. The main casting for Harry Potter, the TV show, has been announced, and we've got our 3 main actors. And holy fuck, they are young. This is like ridiculous.
These aren't AI characters. Like seriously, they look like an AI picture.
They are legit. Who we're
I
getting?
thought they were pretty young in the first like year of Hogwarts or whatever, right?
Yeah, I mean, they probably are. It's like 11 years old, I think, is when you go to Hogwarts for the first time.
Okay.
They probably should go a little younger. That way, because the seasons are going to take longer than the ages.
Yeah.
So.
And like shows, long-running TV shows and stuff, they always run into this problem. If you've cast kids who are like 10, 11, 12 years old, then they hit puberty and suddenly like they've grown like a foot between seasons, and it's like, what the fuck do we do now? Like, you're going to have that problem. But
that happened with Harry in I think it was after the second movie, he was just so much bigger.
People say it all the time about Stranger Things. I'm starting to wonder if there's a curse has been set upon that cast to the point where they're aging like 10 years per 1 year or something.
No, it's just Millie Bobby Brown. She now looks about 40 years old.
She's getting on.
She did age faster than the rest of the cast. It was kind of crazy how much
I think, I don't know, like some people have just got old faces. It's like when you find out Laura Dern was like 25 when she did Jurassic Park, and you're like, what the fuck? You were at least crazy. 35. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, she definitely looked older than she was.
You can thank your telomeres.
Just
be science for you.
Moisturizing is important to everybody.
Be funny as fuck if they say like Stranger Things season 6 is going to happen, but we're worried that we got to get it filmed before Millie Bobby Brown succumbs to Alzheimer's. I'm like, oh no.
But yeah, I don't know, man. Like this Harry Potter TV show is a weird one where it's coming to a lot of the problems of like modern audience bullshit, where like you've now got a black Severus Snape, and the Hermione that they've cast here is mixed race, I guess. Like,
she looks kind of Hispanic, but
maybe Hispanic, maybe like Southern European. Not quite sure.
I don't
it's
know.
Not
If
English.
She's
not English.
But yeah, either way, like it's a bit of a contentious one, and I feel like particularly with these poor kids, like they're gonna cop so much shit from people. Like,
what's worse about the Hermione casting is she's a mudblood.
Yes.
I know where this is going.
She's a mudblood.
Yeah.
Now, same as Black Snape, right? Black Snape has conflict with Harry Potter's dad.
Not because he's a mudblood, but yeah, like he does. He does mock him and bully him.
But they have conflict, right? there is unequivocally no planet, no universe where I believe that the writers won't placate to this nonsense and inject this stuff into the show. Mudblood Hermione, yeah, there'll be some kind of racial bent to it. Black Snape and Harry Potter's dad, yeah, there'll be some racial bent to it. Of course there will. If anyone trusts modern day writers, where have you been for the last at least 5 years? Like, they will unequivocally do something with it. And no one wants this anyway. Like, no one cares about this. No one's crying out for this adaptation. It's a really unique. The group of movies were a very unique franchise in that, as they rose to insane popularity, the books, is that they jumped on the movie train really, really quickly as those books became quite popular. It wasn't like, they waited a long time and then, oh yeah, we'll get to them. No. As they got really, really popular, as they're sort of coming out, the movies were coming out. And so the audience that loved the books, loved the films, grew with the cast as well.
Yeah.
It's just not the same. Like, this is not going to be, it's just not going to be the same interest level. I don't understand why.
What do you think the ratings will be like?
I think the ratings will be decent.
I think it'll be high at first and then probably taper off quite rapidly.
Because I think some people theorize
it depends what they do with it.
Well, who are they pleasing, right? So J.K. Rowling, the left hate her, right? And then they've done a bunch of weird race swaps. So other people are like, well, this is a bit weird. Why you done that then? So who are they actually trying to please in this? Like, yeah, the normies will watch it, but
Ryan Kinnell will watch it.
The fact that the left hate her is hilarious, by the way, considering she was their champion for a while.
She is like a hardcore raging lefty in every other respect, apart from like the trans issue.
Yeah, she just doesn't like the whole transition, and they turned on her so quickly. It was instantaneous.
Well, sure, but like, I think the point being then, like, if someone says like, we're gonna have a black Snape, or we're gonna have like, Harry's gay now, or whatever,
if she thumbs it up,
things, she'll probably cheer for it. Like, she'll be totally fine with all of that stuff. And so it's like, well, I don't really necessarily trust her as the guardian of like literary integrity on this one. And I don't know, like, you guys probably know more about Harry Potter than I do. Like, as far as I understand, the movies are quite well regarded, aren't they? Like, they're generally seen as pretty faithful to the books.
Sure, yeah.
Like, I've read a whole 2 Harry Potter books now. I'm working my way through the series finally, 20 years after they came out.
I didn't read any of the books, but I do recall. So when I was in college, a lot of the movies were coming out, and there was people who read the books a lot, and they said that they removed a lot of things, but it was for the most part faithful. So, and they weren't really upset with them ever. So this is probably going to be a situation where it's definitely
the only thing I've noticed with the movies is like they did Ron dirty. Like, they made him into such a fucking pussy in the movies, whereas in the books he is like way more competent and way more snarky. But yeah, I don't know how much of that came down to just like the actor and how he chose to portray it or whatever. But anyway, as far as I get it, like, the movies are well regarded, and so like you're just retreading old ground with this by doing a TV show. Like, I don't really know what's to be gained, like, narrative wise, like creatively. It's just squeezing more money out of the franchise. That's all it comes down to,
pretty much.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't hold myself up as any kind of expert on Harry Potter in the slightest. Like,
I'm not going to give a shit about this anyway, so it's kind of difficult for me to talk about it. I'm just like, well,
half the cast looks correct. That's the best way I'll put it.
Yeah, I don't know. Beyond like just making money, I don't really know why it's being done. But
I don't know if it can make money, because it's going to be released on HBO, and I don't see where. I understand like HBO as a business model needs to invest large sums of money, but they are actually in debt. Like, Warner Brothers is in huge amounts of debt. And unless this is just for spin-off things, because like Hogwarts Legacy, that sold like 30 or 32 million copies, but it's not the same audience necessarily.
Yeah.
Well, don't they already have a license? because they were the ones who did the movies. So weren't they the one that they would already they don't have to pay any extra in terms of licensing to make this work, right?
I don't.
No, I don't think they need to relicense it. I think they're okay with that.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking because it's Universal that's got all the sort of attraction rights to this, isn't it? Because like you go to Universal Studios and like it's like Harry Potter stuff is all over the place there. Like that's front and center of what they do.
Yeah, I don't know.
They have like a whole thing like butterbeer and all that. It's all over.
Yeah.
I think Warner Brothers were at a crossroads where they were like, shit, like we're not making, these $1 billion movies. Like, what do we do? What properties do we have? And that's when David Zaslav came in and was like, well, we've got all of these properties, all of this IP. We're doing nothing with it. And that's when they suddenly said, right, we're going to do lots of Lord of the Rings and we'll do lots of Harry Potter. And then we're going to do lots of DC and launch that again. And it strikes me as desperate, but some of these things might land. I mean, I don't care about this. This doesn't interest me in the slightest. Couldn't give a shit. But it does scream to me as desperation from Warner Brothers to a large degree. Just been like, we just need to mine our IP. It's just milk the cash cow. And because we're getting the Hunt for Gollum as well. We're getting all these
One thing I will say about the Harry Potter property is that they will, the virtue signalers will say, hey, I'm not going to watch this. It's whatever, but they always will. They always end up watching or consuming the product when it comes to Harry Potter. So
it still makes me laugh, like J.K. Rowling's responses when people say they're going to burn her books. And she's like, oh no, don't you know when you burn a book of mine, like the royalties actually get subtracted from my bank account. And if it's a signed copy, then one of my teeth falls out.
I didn't know she said that. Was funny.
That's pretty fucking good.
For this particular thing, I would say the virtue signaling doesn't really count as much because they're already, the people who were virtue signaling and say that they're not going to consume it, but they always do. Like, the people who they're going to, and obviously the Hogwarts game, wasn't a success because people weren't consuming it.
Well, I think the people who claim that they're going to boycott it, like you realize at times like that they are not as big a contingent of the fan base as you thought they were.
Well, either that or Doc, I was right that a lot of those people said, I'm not playing this. And they're like, okay, where do I buy it?
Well, that's the thing is you can say publicly, hey, I'm not going to be part. I hate Harry Potter. She's a bigot. And then you can buy it. No one will know.
Tell you what, like before we finish up today, would you guys be up for answering a few super chats?
Yeah. My favorite part.
I think we should do it. All right. The first one here is from Marksman of 117B. It's actually a 3-parter here. So the first part says, MauLer, heads up. Palworld's manager Bucky, who sent Blueprints viral, has dropped his new recommendation. The game is 9 Kings. It's addicting. Buy it.
Sorry, who's the recommender?
Palworld.
Are they saying that's the person who recommended Blueprints?
Palworld's manager Bucky, who sent Blueprints viral.
So they're saying 9 Kings is a cool game, I guess, is what they're saying?
Apparently, yeah.
Never even heard of that game.
Neither have I, but hey, you know what? Who knows? Maybe.
Well, consider your head up. He also says the American comic industry is dying, yet in Japan, the indie comic came in America is a foreign bestseller. The market is still there. Indies will claim it. True.
Well, manga is definitely outselling indie like American comics. That's just a known fact.
Oh yeah, by quite a embarrassing margin. He also says this is one from Mark Millar, but we can try and answer, I guess. Have you heard of the comic series Black Hops by Iconic Comics? Imagine if the comic Red was about a little whiter rabbit and the rabbit is John Wick. It's amazing and importantly, it's fun. Well, there you go. Good recommendation there. Excuse me, JK Fozo. Sorry for being a downer, but it's my dad's funeral this weekend and he loved music. So in honor of my dad, I was hoping the bar could raise a toast to Clint and share some of your guys' favorite movie music. I will raise a glass to him right there. Cheers, sir.
Absolutely. Best movie music of all
Tron
time.
Legacy.
That's fair, yeah. Should we knock out the
good stuff?
The usual,
I mean, like relative to the actual movie, or just in general, like.
Why not both? I'm just going to say Lord of the Rings and Star Wars.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings. I was going to.
Yeah, you just go ahead and claim the best ones.
I
then.
did. They're mine now.
I will take Back to the Future. I like the music, the soundtrack, and Indiana Jones. The soundtracks there are great.
Last
Scarface,
Action Hero,
Scarface.
greatest fucking soundtrack of all time, in my opinion.
Damn.
Wow.
Like
Predator
it just has
theme.
like it's just like rock. It's just a bunch of awesome licensed music after one after the other.
Nice. And yeah, Mr. H, you're going for Predator.
Predator theme.
Solid.
Solid
Solid choice. Kevin O'Neill says, channel recommendation, Possum Reviews, solid breakdowns, cynical humor, and an appreciation for booze. We'd love to see him as a guest one day. We've had him on, haven't we? I'm sure we've had Possum Reviews on
If
Open
you
Bar.
haven't, I would suggest that one actually.
Wow.
Yeah, sounds familiar. I'm pretty sure we've had him on.
Rectifiable, if not.
Yeah. RRTNZ says, as a longtime Superman fan, I want this film to be good, but I have little faith in Gunn. His bought and paid for fan hype I've seen is unconvincing. Chuck Norris can't play Superman. He's overqualified. I mean, that much is definitely true. And yeah, man, I don't necessarily get all the fawning that people do over James Gunn. You know, he has definitely produced some good movies in his time, but is he, guaranteed gold with everything he does? Not necessarily, no.
Superman's like the be all and end all. I think if he fucks this up, his rep's gonna crash. But if he nails it, then yeah, maybe some detractors might feel, hey, you know what? Maybe I overstepped. Because to be fair, I'm not very pro James Gunn these days. Not like his last few installments that I'm not a fan of how Superman's been marketed, but I'm still willing to give it a shot. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Chucksenhausen says, cheers, chat. Happy to see Darkhour on today. I will say I was surprised that when you described Karate Kid Legends and its plot holes, you didn't show Johnny yelling, quiet, to justify everything. Well, that's the thing, man. Like, if the movie's not going to make use of him, then I'm not going to make use of him in my review.
No. It was not a good movie, unfortunately. My review will be out tomorrow. Drinkers was out today, so
yeah. And yeah, for the benefit of Mr. H and MauLer. Yeah, and I'm obviously a big fan of like Cobra Kai. I do quite like the Karate Kid movies from back in the day, and so I was curious to see what they were going to do with this, and it felt like just a bit of a cash grab movie adaptation. Or
I would 100% agree with you. It definitely was. It had a feeling of Cobra Kai did well. Let's just do what we can with this. I think you said it best.
Vibe when they announced it, to be honest.
Yeah. I think you said it best when you said that it was a shelved script that they just ended up rehashing and changing a few things.
Yeah. And I feel like you could have had fun with it. You could have like had Johnny and Daniel working together on this one, because like the chemistry between them is really good. Like throwing like Jackie Chan in there and pairing him up with Ralph Macchio. Like Jackie Chan's an amazing, martial artist and stuff, and I'm not taking anything away from his legacy. I just don't think his legacy lies with the Karate Kid movies. It's like he did one really shit film in that franchise from like 15 years ago that nobody remembers, and so making him the centerpiece is just like, oh, come on, man. We didn't need that. Yeah, it was a strange choice of plot focus and plot characters and stuff in that movie. I didn't quite get what they were trying to do. The Right Tackle says, it will truly be tragic if we don't get a clear, obscure review stream from anyone in the Fellowship. Ignore the slop for a week and give it a try, please.
Oh, Az streamed like the whole game, didn't he? That's someone.
I don't know. Did he?
Yeah, well, and he recommends it. I intend to get to it at some point. I am just extremely busy. I know it's a bit of an undertaking to do the whole game. It's not like a 10-hour thing. It's a lot longer than that. Which, so, but I some people have already it's got a great reputation. It's definitely.
I've heard nothing but good things about it. Every time I'm streaming Doom: The Dark Ages, like people are talking to me about Claire Obscure. I will give it a go, and I will hopefully do a review of it, and I presume it will be good as well. Just need to get around to it. That's all. Next question is Eddie Brock says, Mark, what was your experience like on Marvel Knights? And how you made Spidey more mature? What was your inspiration for making Scorpion the new Venom? Oh, shit. Sorry, he's not here to answer that one.
It
Apologies.
was a great experience. I'll just pretend to be Mark Millar. It was a
Yeah,
great
there you go.
experience. It was fantastic. I loved Venom.
He also says, I already mentioned this on Gary's stream yesterday, but your Spider-Man run is 10 times better than what we're getting in Amazing Spider-Man today. Much respect. Cheers. And thank you, man. Appreciate that. Blue Collar Loser says, how is The Last of Us Season 2 even worse than the game? Well, they found a way. They absolutely found a way.
Because there was no checks and balances. That's basically what it was.
Oh, yeah, there needed to be people to say no. Arkham Reaver says, this is a question for all of us, by the way. You have to either let Zack Snyder direct the next Star Wars trilogy or let Rian Johnson make a Lord of the Rings sequel trilogy. Which do you choose?
Zack Snyder.
Probably Zack. Yeah, because Ryan's going to want to try and destroy. Like, he's very much intent on digging up and converting every last meaningful thing you feel about whatever. And Zack, on the other hand, is just, I think he's just going to incompetently
just a retard.
I mean,
yeah, it would be entertaining for Zack will that he's going to be horrible at it.
Yeah, Zack will destroy it, but he won't mean to.
Yeah,
yeah, you'll be like,
he'll try to make it good. He just won't be good.
Yeah,
at
I would
it.
say that what we would discover from Zack's Star Wars is we'd be like, oh, there's something in there that could have worked. Unfortunately, Zack made it. So
I just love the idea of a Zack Snyder Star Wars where like Luke Skywalker is like super fucking muscular and doing everything in slow motion. Like, sure, let's do that.
And for some reason, they use coal and weird gods to navigate space.
Pretending like you don't think that's an amazing idea.
Yeah. Darty says, hello, gents. Food for thought. How long will remakes that nobody asked for keep going? What about remakes that people would actually be interested in? Idea, remake Brokeback Mountain with Hayley Atwell and Sydney Sweeney. Until next time, so long, gay boys. Yeah, I would pay to watch that. Let's do it.
Hayley Atwell, we have to rewind time a little bit for Hayley Atwell. She's lost a lot of weight and therefore a lot of boobage.
No, I think we're fine. I think we can make her work.
She's like, nah, fuck that. I was just gonna say as well, like I'm a little more cynical right now on this subject in terms of blaming the audience, considering Lilo and Stitch. I'd be like, we've got a long way to go before, because Snow White gave us some hope, you know, but it's like, no, back down to the dregs. They're going to be making more and more and more remakes, you know, of things we don't want them to remake, but hey, whatever.
Tell us a little bit about. Tell us about Lilo and Stitch, MauLer.
I mean, you know, I don't want to take up too much time for people who don't give a fuck. Because a lot of people see it as like a little kiddie movie, so why do you care? But I mean, to an extent, isn't that all of Disney's animated classics? Like, they're all meant somewhat for the family, to give some good morals and a backbone to the children, and it's supposed to be relatively entertaining. I don't know if any of you've seen the original Lilo and Stitch, but it's a fun movie. Like,
I have. It's wholesome and heartfelt.
It's got a heart in there, and that's the problem. They grabbed its heart, pulled it out, and threw a fucking stake at it. The main thing that really pissed me off, and you may have heard of this already, right? The original story is Nani is her sister who became essentially her mother because their parents died, and so the story is watching her struggle to really maintain the family, keep it together, and to have a job to be able to make the money to take care of Lilo, while a social worker is keeping an eye on the whole thing. And you know, the climax, as much as it's about aliens trying to get their experiment who's gone loose, at the same time we've got a very real family story of a sisters that are about to be torn apart by the system, because to be fair, on the surface she does not look like a good guardian, but by the end she comes through, you know, and the social worker understands the situation, and they're all a big happy family, and you end on a happy musical note with Sitch being integrated, as he says he's found his family as well. The new version, the conclusion is the sister says, man, I'd really love to go to Marine Biology University. And like, I shit you not, this is just throughout the film. They keep fucking mentioning how much she's interested in doing marine biology, as though it has anything to do with anything. There's this neighbor character that got invented for the live action version. And at the end of the film, she just says, hey, I can take care of Lilo and you can just leave. And she's like, really? And then Lilo's like, yeah, I'd like that. There you go. The thing that made my head explode was, you know, the whole concept of like the whole thing the classic film relies on is Ohana means family, family means nobody gets left behind. That's like
they say it in the trailer.
Yeah. the new film, right at the end when all this is suggested, you might think as the audience member, well, that sounds like families getting left behind there as she goes to university. And she says, well, wait, what about Ohana? Family can't be left behind. And this fucking neighbor character goes, yes, but that also means that you can't leave you behind.
That doesn't even make sense.
No, it doesn't make fucking sense at all. She said you need to go to university
from like
because
an
you can't...
English lit perspective.
This is where like fucking modern ideology runs smack bang.
It fucked the whole
into
movie.
The brick wall of reality.
Of all the
Yeah,
things
it's
changed
basically
as well.
it-
Like of all the things.
Ohana means
why?
career, MauLer.
Well, it's basically people who have never understood the concept of sacrifice for family and just went on, and
Yeah.
then they eventually ended
you're
up
right.
as writers.
Well,
my God,
it's
fucking
like
lame to
because
watch.
Word assemblers.
because again, like if this was a guy, they would never preach that kind of message to him. But because it's a female lead, they have to say like, no, it's about you and what you want. It's about your career. It's about you getting out there into the world and being a girl boss. And don't let like petty concepts like family connection and love hold you back. You go out there and work in your corporate job.
Ohana means the Pell Grant will give me free college.
Yeah.
The rest of the movie, they adapt a lot of scenes 1-to-1. They cut them up a little bit. They add some new stuff. They keep fucking adding in lines about marine biology, like I said. And I would have said, had I not had any information, I'd be like, yeah, this is probably going to do amazingly well, because Stitch is one of the most like marketable little Disney creatures you could ever imagine and want, and he's already everywhere, being sold for everything. But it's doing extremely well. It's already this is funny. I saw a post about this and I was like, it doesn't actually mean anything, but it is funny. It's like it's already made more profit in a weekend than the original film did in total, and it's done more than Thunderbolts already. It's like, well, yeah.
That's not hard.
We knew that was going to happen.
The more tragic information to me is that the animated movie gets fucking stamped on, and this new one's going to be held up now as that's Lilo and Stitch. And it's like, it's not, but okay. Best of luck.
means Pell Grant, and you get a very good amount of money to go to college.
It was so shit, but with its success, because everyone's expecting it to make over $1 billion. So yeah, Disney will be like, "Oh, we're back on. Everyone get Tangled back in production. People want this shit."
Yeah, live action remakes are back, baby. Andrew McCarthy here says, cheers, mates. If Darth Vader is the greatest / popular movie villain, who is the best video game and TV show, or at least most popular? So I guess you're saying who's the best villain in a TV show or a
video
game
villain of all time. That's fucking hard. Liquid Snake.
Sephiroth, because he wants to fucking obliterate the entire world just because he's mad.
I mean, wait. So were we asking who we think is like the best written one, or who's the most iconic representation of like the villain of video games?
Well, I mean, they're going on Darth Vader here, so it's probably more iconic than best written. Because I'm sure
would we be aiming for more like Bowser at that point?
Go for best written then.
Okay, it's an interesting question. Does someone like an Andrew Ryan count as a villain?
Well, he's not really a villain. He's more like a kind of supporting character almost in that game.
Drinker. How about Albert Wesker? Very fantastic villain. Very cliche, but awesome villain.
I might say iconic. I wouldn't say well written, because like in the first game, he's just a fucking guy.
Well, does the remake count? Because he's way better in the later versions.
He's better in the remake. I think, when I get to like how he ends up in Resident Evil 5, he's just like a fucking cackling villain who just wants to kill everyone because, like, I'm not really sure what his entire plan is, but
a lot of people might
think
he
looks cool and he sounds awesome.
Or a Voss from Far Cry 3 or Showdown. A lot of people are mentioning that as well.
What about the can't remember his name, but the dude in Half-Life, the suit, the guy in the suit.
The G-Man.
Yeah.
I don't think he's even an antagonist. He's more like an observer.
Yeah, he's kind of elusively
Villains
in and out of
games
events.
Tend to be a little bit more cliche. Unfortunately, they're not really as. Yeah, very often they're like, I'm the villain, I'm evil, kill me.
Maybe the boss from Metal Gear Solid 3, because she's like an antagonist, but also like a fallen hero. So she's got like a super complex backstory that explains why she ended up doing what she does. But it still comes down to like a one-on-one fight with Snake.
The one thing about the boss that I never understood, she really doesn't believe in what she's doing. She's kind of doing it to push Snake, and then she continues to do this fight. Like somebody just said it in the chat. Volgin is really the villain of that game. It's weird because
yes, she's like a double agent, but she
more. Yeah, go. Sorry.
Yeah, because she's a double agent, basically doing a kind of false flag operation against the Soviet Union, and so she has to die in order to complete her mission. But she's also not really willing to just go down without a fight, and so it's kind of an interesting dynamic right at the end where it's like, I need you to beat me, but I'm not just gonna, lay down and let you kill me. Like I need you to work for this one, which is pretty cool.
Definitely has that feeling of like, I want you to be the best, but I'm not gonna just let you be the best.
Yeah, I did like this one, Trevor, as well from GTA 5.
Yeah,
he's a pretty fun character, mostly down to the performance.
The hand from Smash Bros. He just all he's doing is
the
playing with his
L
toys.
block in Tetris.
The L block.
Duden says, "Drinker, you must answer for that Aerith take. It's heresy, brother. Nah, fuck you. You know what? There's very few hills that I'm willing to die on, but that's one.
That's not true. You die on all kinds of hills.
No, but I've never actually died.
That particular hill. Which hill was this that you died on?
It was a little take in my video about The Last of Us, where I said there's fundamental truths in life, like one of them being that Aerith is objectively the better choice for Cloud in Final Fantasy VII than Tifa is, and I stand by that.
Even I know that's controversial. I know nothing about Final Fantasy.
I don't care. She's my girl, and so I'm not gonna back
Aerith
down
has the better. I will put this: she has the better personality. Tifa has the better physical build.
Yes, but sometimes you have to look deeper. And that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm being more mature, okay, for once in my life.
How dare you?
Mr. Taco Boutique says, "MauLer, do Luthen's speech in Luthen's voice," because I expect you to have just memorized his entire monologue.
I don't know. Also, I can't do Skarsgård's voice. You kidding me?
So, something about burning down his life to light.
I burned my life for the sunrise I can never see. I think that's
holy shit. It's like Stellan Skarsgård.
I was gonna
say, with me.
I felt possessed by him for a moment there.
Zeddy Boy says, "Have you seen the recent movie Locked? Anthony Hopkins traps Bill Skarsgård in a car and drives him insane over a week. Good movie."
Wasn't that a remake?
I don't think so.
I've seen
I'm pretty
compare
certain
it
the
to
remake
Phone
of
Booth,
some
though, which
other film.
Interesting. No, I kind of want to see that just because it sounds like an interesting little premise. I don't know if it's any good though. Obviously, not heard anyone say anything about it really, other than some recommendations.
It kind of feels like, so from what I've seen from the trailers, it feels like if someone took that concept of somebody checking their hair in your window and expanded it into an entire movie.
What?
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, there's a guy trapped in a car, and it raises the heat, lowers the temp, it does all crazy shit to him to drive him insane, but no one can hear him outside of it. So whenever someone comes over and is like, he can't open it.
Why can't he just like punch his way out of it or break the glass or something?
I guess
I haven't seen it, so I don't know if there was restrictions or if they put like extra thick glass or something.
I love your explanation, MauLer, where you're just like, I guess it's strong glass.
This is why I write now, okay, Drake?
Fucking genius. Glitterstorm Apocalypse says, recently watched Fountain of Youth and was underwhelmed. That's the one with fucking John Krasinski, isn't it? What does the panel think? Should specialized directors like Guy Ritchie stick with what they are best at or try to expand their horizons?
Nah, stick with what they're best at. They do it for a reason.
I think everyone should always give
Guy
a
Ritchie
chance.
especially enjoys it. So
I mean, in Guy Ritchie's case, I'd love him to stick to what he's best at, because when he expands out, it can go a bit. But
I mean, he did Covenant, and that was okay.
I don't think I've seen that. But like, well, that's the thing. I love him at his best, so I'm just like, please make more of your best stuff, which typically seems to be gangster stuff. Regardless, like, you know, there's some directors that can surprise in the same way actors can, right? You kind of want to find those little nuggets of amazing combinations where you may not have expected them to exist. So I'd like some experimentation, but you know, to be honest with you, right? If someone said like, well, "What about James Gunn doing Superbad?" It's like, well, I guess we can waste our one shot on Superman this era on James Gunn potentially. Maybe it's not a waste. Who knows? But
I think everybody should test their limits, but you should always dial back into what you're good at. Like, you know, go out, try something new, come back.
Well,
That's
I mean,
just the way.
Look at Peter Jackson, right? Up until doing Lord of the Rings, he was best known for doing things like Brain Dead and stuff, like just these splatter horror flicks. Like, you never would have pegged him for doing something like epic fantasy like this, and yet there he was.
We'll be completely honest with you on that one. If I were a producer, I would probably be like, why are we getting him? Like, isn't that a bit of a wacky? Maybe he like gave him such an amazing pitch that like he was convincing.
Well, potentially, but there you go. Like, you know, he can expand beyond what he's known for and do something really quite spectacular. And
I think if you never test yourself, though, you never expand as a creator. You know, like if all of us, every single one of us, including the people who are no longer on the stream, if we never went outside of our comfort zone, we wouldn't get better at our craft. You know, whether or not you fail or succeed is not as big of a deal as what you learn from your experience.
I think that would be fine in the context of original IPs. When they start screwing with stuff that only gets one chance to, you know, be shown to the whole world, people get a bit more upset.
Sure.
Okay, I agree with that,
yeah. Craig the Bad Guy says, how do you guys feel about writing your Ripperverse stories? Did you write out full scripts, or did you describe the plot and let the artist run with it?
I have no Ripperverse story, so I don't know.
So we had to write the scripts. We had to kind of describe what happens in each of the panels, then put the text boxes in, and then the artists will interpret that and produce what they think it should look like. And then we've got creative input, I guess, on how each panel looks and whether they got it right or whether we'd like to change a few things or whatever. And we progressed it from there. So yeah, that was the experience. I thought it all came together pretty efficiently, I think, for all of us. So yeah, I like this one. MauLer had to cut 250 pages of his script, obviously. Yeah. I'll do one more here. Jimmy Drummer says, hi, what do you guys think of my idea of turning Lord of the Rings into a show in which every episode some character tells us a story from different moments in the past, like in Young Indiana Jones Chronicles? So
solid.
You could. I mean, it's going to come down to how well it's written and stuff. Like, I guess with Lord of the Rings, I'm more associated with one persistent overarching narrative, but the books are definitely written from different perspectives and weirdly are like out of chronological order, which does get a bit confusing at times. It jumps backwards and forwards, which the movies never really did. They smooth everything out to make it easier. But yeah, I mean, it can work, like, especially if you want to expand the Lord of the Rings universe, you know, and tell smaller stories from different characters' points of view. I think that could work.
Well, it's like any anthology. You know, each one is going to be judged on its own merit.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll finish with this one because I like it. Paul Connolly says, hail panel, speaking of Mr. H's appreciation for Sydney Sweeney, I saw one of the illustrations for the female Silver Surfer, and I think Marvel wasted a golden opportunity to cast her in the role. Spray paint her silver and you're good to go, man.
Or a silver opportunity.
Yeah.
You know what? It would be pretty funny, though, if she was cast and just to see that difficulty and being like, I hate that it's a girl, but
it's like every scene is just her like surfing and jiggling, and then all of a sudden everyone's okay with it.
It's like, hate this girl, you know what, but man, what a girl.
Incredible, yeah.
Yeah, you could definitely make that work. But yeah, gentlemen, I'll probably finish up there for this evening. thank you for coming in for this tonight. It's been good to have you all.
Thank you for having me.
And for everyone that's joined us, yay, we don't have to talk about The Last of Us Season 2 anymore. We're free. We made it. Woo, we're done. We've done our service to humanity. We watched it, so you didn't have to. But yeah, I appreciate you guys all joining us for this stream tonight. And any super chats that we missed, obviously, we will pick them up on Last Orders. But thank you very much for your generosity anyway. And we'll catch you on the next one. But for now, that's all we got for today. So go away.
Bye.